While the cold winter of the Northern Hemisphere keeps many of us huddled up indoors and away from the racetrack, down under it's the middle of the Australian summer. And that means one important thing for motorsports fans: GT cars at Bathurst. Who will conquer the mountain? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the Bathurst 3-hour live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark. Cameron Aubernon is on social media, along with Ryan Bauer producing, who's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Now, DJ, this is a track that has definitely gained a lot more notoriety globally lately, but still kind of niche to those who followed road racing.
Yeah, it certainly is, Joe, but it is a fearsome track nonetheless. Look for really a tale of two different circuits here today. You're going to have the long runs on the Mountain Straight and the Conrad Straight that lead you into Griffin's Bend and down into the Chase, and those are going to be your two primary overtaking opportunities. From there on out, it's the run up and down the hill, from the cutting all the way to Forest Elbow as we make our way along this semi-permanent road circuit. It's very tight. It almost acts like a street circuit up the mountain with incredible elevation changes. You've got to be very careful. You've got to be very precise. And unfortunately, don't be surprised if we may get a little bit of a track blockage early on in the race. That's just how narrow this thing is.
It's not uncommon that will happen sometimes if things get a bit messy. But before we get to the racing, we do want to mention that Six Sigma Sim Racing is extremely happy to be involved by sponsoring their first endurance race event with PCA Sim Racing. The PCA Series 9 went very well, and everyone's eager to maintain that momentum going forward. Watch for the promo code during the race to get 15% off all Six Sigma Sim Racing products. This code will only be valid while the race is live, so don't miss out. Also, a reminder that PCA Sim Racing social media offers in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing. So we're just at the end of qualifying. The checkered flag has come out. I see a couple cars still out there, but the good news is, DJ, we've got all 28 vehicles with a time in.
Yes, we do, and particularly I'm keeping an eye there on the top of the GT3 Pro category as times are very tight. The top 5 only separated by about a half second. Indeed, the top 6 only separated by a half a second here at this point. So it looks like we're in for some close running. And to that point, one of the great things about today is the multiple classes that we're running, GT3s and GT4s. That's going to make traffic management a huge part of this 3-hour race.
And let's remember as well that it's not just the two different classes of cars, but also the classes of drivers, as we have the Pro-Am and the Am in each of the GT3s and the GT4s. So watch out for those. It looks like they have just finished everybody getting a time in. I don't see anybody else who is able to set one. And there you see the differences between the three classes, with the Pro-Am and the Am just being based on driver rating. Let's go through our starting order for today's 3-hour event. And up at the top, appropriately, it is Eureka leading with Hydro Race JRT TM Racing on the outside of the front row. Wonder Bread will start from third in the GT3 cars with Imperial Motorsports Magic Man in P4. Last 10th Racing starts 5th, followed by Marvel Motors in P6, and then it's Matrix Bronze in the 7th position. Shake and Bake Masser will start in the 8th spot, where Strennan, which has one of my favorite paint schemes out there, starts 9th. Dre GT rounds out your top 10. After that, Dreadnought Racing will start in 11th. The 208 GT3 racing team will start 12th, and Code Red will start 13th. Three Amigos begins in P14. Laughing Clown Masser will start in 15th. The last GT3 cars will start 16th. It is Anchors Away. DJ?
In 17th, we start off with the meat of the GT4 field with Simrat Racing, followed by Backmarker Motorsports. Then it's Breaking Bad Racing, followed by Matrix Silver in 20th. In 21st, it's going to be Point Break Esports and then Gone Broke Racing. Matrix Orange will start off in 23rd, followed by 208 GT4 Racing Green Team in 24th. 25th is Kinnerin Racing, followed by Blue Thunder, then Matrix Green, and Three Stooges Racing brings up the back of the field.
Now, as we come to live pictures, you may notice that it looks a little bit dark other than all the lights from the headlights shining along the Conrod. They have increased the time in the sim, so yes, it's going to be a 3-hour race, but it will mimic the actual Bathurst 12 hours as the race carries on. So we will see the progression of the day as it is in the real world at this track, and should be interesting seeing the drivers have to adapt to the changing conditions as such. So they get ready to get going. Now, if you're thinking a 3-hour race is a long time to be watching, we do have even more impetus to stick around, because Six Sigma Sim Racing will be giving away 3 sets of racing gloves today. To win a pair, simply give us the correct answer to one of our 3 trivia questions that we'll have today. We'll do them at each of the half hours. So definitely come back around, at least for that. If you want a set of nice racing gloves, we'll give you those questions, and just send us the answers in the chat. And hopefully you can get those right. Get yourself some nice little swag as they head towards the chase here, DJ. It's always frightening heading on the first lap around Bathurst. I can't imagine doing it in the dark.
Joe, I can't even get a lap around here when it's noon and track conditions are perfect. I can't imagine the amount of concentration that has to be exhibited here for these drivers. It is going to be very intense. It is going to be very tricky, and I think watch for a lot of caution here while the sun is still down.
All right, it's starting at 5:30 a.m. here in virtual Australia. Obviously, the sun going up 4 times faster. We should get some light here soon, but for now, the green flag comes out for Eureka, and we go racing here at the mountain, coming down into Hell Corner. It's a challenge for the lead, as that is Trey Drawhorn to the outside, trying to see if he can take that top spot away before they get to the twisty bits up across the top. And Eureka has Dave Schwartz pulling ahead as they head down the mountain straight.
As they work their way down, this is where the draft is really going to come into play. We take a quick look back at the GT4 field right now. Simrat Racing able to hold on to their lead, but Breaking Bad Racing has been able to get by Backmarker Motorsports as they try to move their way forward.
And Trey Drawhorn just took the lead away. They managed to outbreak Eureka's team into Griffin's Bend. So they have that critical track position, and more than anything, that means that they're going to be clear of any problems up at the very front. But so far it looks very good as we watch from on top of them, looking back at a straight line of cars weaving along the mountain for the first time.
And this is exactly what I talked about in pre-race, Joe. You're not going to see a lot of overtakes here coming up and down the mountain. It's just not going to happen. It's a one-way ticket to disaster if you try to be a little bit too aggressive. You've got to stay in line, be patient, and get all of your focus onto Forest Elbow. That is the last corner of this narrow section of the track. You need to get a good run off of there down the Conrad Straight to be able to set up a pass into the chase.
They're into Forest Elbow now, watching to see if anybody has any problems. It looks like everybody's playing patient. Nobody's overshooting the corner through there this time. So no incident, thankfully, there at the start of the race. As we look at Rodney Campbell, second in the GT4 Pro-Am class. He's currently chasing Robert Rattray in the Simrat Racing Machine as they also hit the Conrod.
Yeah, and here comes the GT4 class. A big separation, it has to be said, with Simrat and Breaking Bad. I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but Backmarker Motorsports finds himself a full 5.5 seconds behind. So this is looking pretty good for these two cars up the front. They're going to be able to break away a little bit.
And Mike Sachs currently in that number 27, for some reason, way off the pace of the leaders since the start. Hopefully we didn't have some sort of incident that we missed, but so far everybody is still running after we've completed the first lap of the race. There are your leaders weaving back and forth to try and break the slipstream already. Hydra Race with Trey Drawhorn, Eureka with Schwartz, and then in third it is Imperial Motorsports Magic Man with Chris Pies currently in the car. We check in with Dave Craig, who currently sits P7.
Yeah, he's holding in behind last 10th Racing, and again, up and down the hill here, we can occasionally see a pass or two going into the cutting, but that is a pretty aggressive move, and you've really got to be able to have that set up by the time you get into Griffin's Bend. Right now, Dave doing a good job of just trailing behind. The problem he's going to run into here is coming up and down the hill. These GT3s do make a little bit of aerodynamic disruption in the air, so he's going to have some aero wash that he's going to have to deal with, and there indeed through some of the fast sections there coming up and over McPhillamy Park, you can see him falling back a little bit, just trying to search for that grip.
And if you're wondering how to keep track of the four different classes, especially since the Pro-Am and AMs are going to look pretty similar in that same class, just watch our tower and watch our graphics. Red is the Pro-Am and GT3, blue is Am and GT3, Pro-Am in GT4 is green, and then we've got the orangey yellow for the Am and GT4. So when you see those colors, that is your indication of what exactly you're looking at, such as right here. Here's the Am for GT4 with Joachim Baker currently sitting 6th.
Yeah, Joachim trying to move his way up through the order here a little bit as he runs, currently sitting in that Matrix Orange machine. As they run their way down the hill right now, looks like a pretty good battle right in front of them there with Point Break and Matrix Silver. Could be a little bit of a run, but I think Matrix Silver is going to be held in position by the fact that they were able to get a good enough run on Backmarker Motorsports to be able to hold into that train.
Yeah, Backmarker is still kind of towing everybody along here, up in third overall with the GT4s currently, and it's a nice tow for Matrix Silver, but as close as they get, they decide to back out of it by the time they get to the chase. So behind them, overshooting the corner a lot there. That was Matrix Orange. Joachim Baker, for some reason, gaining a ton of time on this group, but he did make the apex.
He did make the apex there, but he is certainly coming on like a train with a full head of steam. He does not want to be held back here at this point, trying to push his way forward. And I'm a little bit surprised by that. I would have thought with a 3-hour race such as it is that we'd see a little bit of calmness, a little bit of restraint out of some of these drivers in the early going, especially while it's still dark outside. I think once the sun starts to peek its way up above the horizon, we'll start to see a lot more of aggressiveness, as indeed you can see that skyline starting to lighten up a little bit here at this point.
And we ride on board with Joachim looking backwards. Ahead of him, though, he had another go at Will Kelly in Murray's corner. Couldn't make the pass, but you can see that slowed him up. And now David Fernandez, Brett Holmes, Christian Rava, all chasing him down as they once again climb up through Griffin's Bend towards the cutting.
Yeah, here they go. We ride on board with Joachim Baker. You can see those cars out in front of him, and it's important for him here at this point not to overdrive the car. You don't want to be putting too many inputs coming up and down the hill. You really want to just keep things as calm as possible when you're going on this. And frankly, the only way to do that, Joe, is muscle memory. You've just got to run this track again and again and again and again so you can do it in your sleep.
Back with Will Kelly now, here in the Pro-Am category, sitting 5th of the GT4s. That is the car of Michael Patterson just in front of him. You can see how slow they have to get down through the S's and into the dipper. It crunches them together to where he can almost reach out and touch that number 29 machine, but this is where he needs to focus, as DJ mentioned, out of Forest Elbow. All of them tight together with Mike Sachs once again pulling them along.
And here they go, and you see a little bit of that, what we're going to come to see over the course of this race quite a bit, which is that sort of textbook weaving back and forth, trying to break the draft a little bit to see if that's able to gain them a little bit of an advantage. Here comes a move. Nope, thought about it. Yep, nope, there it's going to be from behind as they make the move going down into the chase.
Will Kelly with a textbook move past Matrix Silver. Patterson didn't fight it. So Kelly's now up to 4th in the GT4, still tight behind Patterson as Joachim Baker, who we saw likes to make aggressive moves, is deep on the brakes once again. The 37 still stuck in 6th, though, and in fact, once again, compromised his exit. Look how close Fernandez is.
He is all over the back of him here. I wouldn't be surprised if we maybe see a little bit of a move going down into Murray's corner. Looks like that's not going to play itself out, or Hell Corner rather, as they now work their way down the mountain straight. And now keep an eye out here going down into Griffin's Bend. This could be a big area where we see some of these moves start to play out. A little bit of a sneak attack potentially as they go. Looks like nobody's in the move here to be too aggressive. I like that, Joe. I like the heads up from that, not being too long, but ooh, car running a little bit wide farther in the back.
Oh, Fernandez went deep into Griffin's Bend. Holmes is going to try and take advantage of it. He's on the outside into the cutting, which is kind of sketchy place to make a pass. He gives it a right go, but unfortunately it does not pan out, and Fernandez will hold him off for now. Up ahead of them, oh, a mistake from Point Break. They are going to lose a spot to Mike Sachs. Or maybe that was an attempt at a pass. It was an attempt at a pass. It was Mike Sachs actually in back marker who went a little bit wide through the cutting, it seems.
Yeah, and you've got to be careful about those moves through the cutting. I said that that's an area you're able to make a move if you want to, but you've got to be full commit coming through there, because if you get a little bit offline, especially as this race continues on, we're going to see the marble build up on the outside. We're going to see a lot more of the difficulty that really exists in trying to get a move done around there. A little bit of a poke to the inside. That's an aggressive move there from Point Break. They are on it here. They don't want to wait around anymore.
Certainly not. So it seems like the mid-pack there in the GT4s has been getting a bit fierce. I think we may have had an issue with Keenerin Racing in the number 93, because they are a ways off the back of the pack. I've been trying to look into it as they now come into the chase. Here we go. Looks like we've pulled it up. This is Charlie Boyer in the car, and this is down into Murray's corner. We just go a little wide here, maybe. Easy to do it, this one. Oh, no, he spins it.
Yeah, just got on the throttle there a little bit too early, I think. And there is traction control in both of these GT3 and GT4 models, but it's still a pretty easy thing to do. You just kind of get it like that, especially if you clip the curb a little bit and unsettle the horizontal nature of the car. Watching here is another car, that's the 248, going a little bit wide. That's anchors away. Just having a little bit of a problem there. They're able to stop it, though, before they make contact with the wall.
Both in the same corner. I've always said that I feel like Murray's corner is a little harder than you'd anticipate for just a simple 90-degree left-hand turn. Ooh, this is going to be tight. Kelly finds just enough space here on the right-hand side, coming up into Griffin's Bend, and is going to sneak through. That's going to put him up into 3rd. So podium now for Point Break. Back marker falls to 4th.
All right, good run there for Point Break as they continue to try to move their way through the field. It really looks like now that this GT4 field is the one that's really slicing and dicing here at this point. Now, my question's going to be is what happens when the leaders come around to the back of this pack? That's going to be the big changing point in this race, Joe. When we start to get into lap traffic, when do you let them by? How are the leaders going to separate these battles? And how are the battles up in the GT3 category going to break out as well?
I think they still got a little bit before they catch up. It looks like maybe a third of a lap before Trey Drawhorn gets the very last of the GT4. So he's got some time, but there's quite a bit of lap time difference between these two classes. So yeah, I'm very curious to see how that dynamic will unfold here today, considering it can so easily go wrong in a lot of places.
Yeah, it very much can, but there you see a little bit of a breakaway. We're going to check back in on that GT3 field right now as we ride on board with Wonder Bread Master right now. Mark Neester behind the wheel of the car trying to close down on Imperial Motorsports Magic Man. Just a little bit of follow the leader here at this point as they work their way down through Skyline.
We're starting to see more and more light. It's already past, it's past 6 a.m. virtual standard time here in the sim, so we're getting just some hints of sunrise over the horizon. I have to admit, this Wonder Bread team has one of the favorite paint schemes I've seen, not just because it's an homage to Talladega Nights, but You know, I've really been turned on to the idea of NASCAR-style paint schemes on sports cars. It looks good to me, and it kind of reminds me of maybe about, like, I'd say the 70s era sports car racing, where they did put, big numbers on the roofs and the sides.
Yeah, they certainly did, and it's a very cool thing to be able to see here for all of these drivers bringing everything together as this is. The advantage here of obviously racing on the sim is you're really able to put sort of any sort of paint scheme that you want to down on the car, and it really and truly adds a lot of it. We got a little bit of side-by-side here, though, for about 6th place back in the GT4 class.
Oh, that was a big moment for Patterson. The Matrix Silver car has to gather it up and almost got overtaken by Gone Broke, but Fernandez backed out of it, and so they will stay in line. But a big attempt from the 29 to overtake Mike Sachs. Backmarker Motorsports struggling a little bit here.
Yeah, they're finding themselves falling down through the order. They're down 3 positions here at this point in that number 27. And I wonder if that's just maybe a little bit of the nighttime coming in and throwing Mike off a little bit. It's very disconcerting to be running around Bathurst here in the nighttime. Now that the sun is starting to come up and we're seeing a little bit more on track, wouldn't be surprised if we see that car get a little bit more speed.
Yep, likewise, we'll see if the comfort starts to come into play here and makes life a little bit nicer for those out on the circuit as we ride with Christian Rava, another of my favorite of the teams here, Blue Thunder, reference to Randy Lanier's championship-winning team in the 80s at IMSA, and has painted up the car likewise to mimic that. But right now, he's more worried about Brett Holmes and the 208 GT4 Racing Green Team, who are also gathering up Fernandez, who we just mentioned not long ago, who had to back off of that move through the cutting. So it's all squeezing back together here down in the GT4s.
Yeah, this pedal, oh, that was a big clobber of the curb there for the 08 machine. That's the 208 GT4 racing car. I'm surprised we didn't see a little bit of an overtake, but right now, here we've got Blue Thunder, Matrix Green coming down into the corner a little bit. They're going to try to get out, excuse me, that is that 208 GT4 racing team, and Blue Thunder going at it, trying to see if they're able to get anything to play here at this point, and it looks like Blue Thunder is going to be able to take that position.
Indeed, that'll move them into 8th in the GT4, so nicely done by Rava down through Hell Corner, and Holmes doesn't have an answer up the mountain straight. He lets it go, at least for this time. And once again, they climb up the huge amount of elevation change here. A bit of a defense down to the inside there ahead of Fernandez. Patterson not necessarily feeling very safe, or maybe he was taking a look at Mike Sachs. Not sure which was the case.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure either which one that was, but sometimes when you're running up and down the hill here at this point, it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. So we continue to watch here. 3-car train now starting to form. Again, this is all going to be crucial now on where they come out on Forest's Elbow. That is going to be your next big overtaking opportunity. The rest of this is just keeping the car together, running down through Skyline of the Dipper.
They've got Will Kelly in front of them, but it's about 2 seconds up the road currently, kind of running away here. Let's see who gets the exit out of Forest Elbow. Looks pretty even between all of them, frankly. Not sure that this is going to give an opportunity down into the chase. They look pretty spread apart there as this group of 4 continues to fight for 5th position. And we're only just past 15 minutes into this race, so still very early days for everyone. I have to admit, I'm pretty pleased to see not just the patience that we've witnessed, DJ, but other than a couple of spins, and maybe I'll need to knock on wood here, we haven't really had any big accidents.
No, we haven't. Everybody's kept this clean and green here at this point. My warnings of a track blockage early on certainly not coming to pass. I've been impressed with the driving standards here at this point in the race, doing a very good job of keeping everything together, keeping it clean, and not being too aggressive. That's the biggest cardinal sin you can make here at Bathurst.
All right, as we once again climb up the front stretch, we're going to take a look at our leaders real quick if you're just joining us, because they're going to catch up to this traffic soon. That's Trey Drawhorn leading the pro class in the GT3s for Hydro Race JRT TM Racing. And then behind him, Scott Kessel is leading the AMs right now. 9th overall in the GT3s, but he is running in the AM Shake and Bake Master car, the number one. What about the GT4s here, DJ?
Well, it's going to be Simrat Racing leading the way with Robert Rattray in control of that pack by a healthy margin here of about 5 seconds. Rattray just kind of off and into his own world here at this point. And then as we look back into the AM class right now, that's going to be Joachim Baker in the Matrix Orange machine, holding on to a good line here up in the middle of the Pro-Am category. He's got a pretty substantial gap as well back to Point Break Esports of about 2.7 seconds. Now that car not in class, that's just the next one on the trot. He's got a big gap back to his closest AM rival.
The leaders have officially caught the GT4s now. Drawhorn has been overtaking a few of them. In fact, there he is right now, just behind Brett Holmes, Rava, Fernandez, Patterson, that battle we've been watching for so long. This will give us a good sense of how much faster in a straight line these GT3 cars are.
Yeah, and this is where you're going to see them start to stretch their legs a little bit. They do have a straight line speed advantage, but really and truly where they gain the most ground over these GT4s is through the twisty bits, through the parts of the track where the aerodynamics are going to come into play. Quick dive down to the inside there of Matrix Silver. Not going to be able to get a move done on the number 27 of Backmarker Motorsports, but now they will. You can see this separated the battle a little bit as they ran.
Yeah, he's using that traffic to his advantage here, and Eureka is unable to get Dave Schwartz any closer than 2.5 seconds right now. Here he is, now having to overtake the same 4 cars that we just watched the 62 go by, and unfortunately, just doesn't quite make it down the front stretch. He's going to have to use the mountain straight to go by Patterson and Sachs.
Yeah, and that's going to be a little bit frustrating there for him, obviously trying to gain as much time as possible when you're stuck behind one of those slower cars. It really can slow you down. Here is Chris Pies that is going to be able to make his way by a 2-wide situation. Good heads up there from Chris. He's now going to be able to move his way up through the field, but he's going to have the problem here.
Sorry, behind him, we've had an accident into Griffin's Bend. The Blue Thunder car, unfortunately, caught out by a spinning Gone Broke Racing. Kind of related but separate incidents, and a couple of them have made contact. We've got the replay. I was watching that side-by-side battle after you mentioned the GT3 car going through, and a little touch of the grass. Oh, no, he got some help. Oh, excuse me. He ran into the side of the other car.
Yeah, that was a little bit of bumping and banging there between those two drivers, and that's going to be enough to send Blue Thunder out into the wall. Some pretty hefty damage there to the front of that machine. That's not what you want 20 minutes into a 3-hour race.
Thought I had seen him clip the grass and spin off, but I was completely wrong on that one. That was a pretty big hit from both of them into the barriers. So let's hope that they don't have to take an extra pit stop here, because we're a long ways away from the first scheduled stop.
Yeah, no limits on fuel tanks here, so we're really expecting probably about 2 stops over the course of this race. Look for them to fire off maybe just a hair before the hour mark. I think fuel saving will come into play here for these drivers, as that's something they're going to have to watch out for.
Watching with Dave Craig here as he runs in P7, coming upon Brett Holmes. Should find an opportunity to sneak on by before they get to the chase, and sets off after Chris Braun about half second up the road. Once again, a quick reminder that Six Sigma Sim Racing is once again your sponsor for today's endurance event, and watch for the promo code during the race to get 15% off all Six Sigma Sim Racing products. This code is only valid live during the race, so there you see it now on your screen. Make sure and enter that in, and you can get 15% off any Six Sigma Sim Racing products on their website, sixsigmasimracing.com, to go check that out. Big thanks to them for helping get this show on the road here today. And speaking of getting on the road and going, Trey Drawhorn, 2.5 seconds still ahead of Dave Schwartz, and keeping himself a handy distance away. He's cleared the GT4s completely. No, not quite, actually. Excuse me. He's got, looks like just a couple more to go. That's a big distance up to the last 2 as we go side by side through Griffin's Bend with the GT4s.
And that's a little bit of that avoidance that you've got to try to watch out for. And that's Dre GT and Code Red trying to make their way around. Thankfully, they're able to do it. That's going to swap things around just a little bit in that GT4 category, as I believe that's Matrix Silver being able to hold on to that right now. And so they'll be able to pull themselves away a little bit. Very, very sketching moments.
Indeed. So Ivan Gomez now 10th here in the GT3. So unfortunately, they're catching up to one of those GT4s. Brett Holmes trying to stay off to the side as Gomez is attacking Kessel for that 9th position, swinging it down through the dipper, and the sun now peeking over the horizon, and a big checkup, unfortunately, with Minkler unable to do anything to go by Brett Holmes there.
Yeah, and that checkup really, really cost them there. And now you can see as they come onto the long Conrad straight, the number 18 machine just not really able to be close enough to try to close in, and indeed going to be losing a little bit of that draft range. By the way, Hydra Race JRT Racing just setting the fastest lap of the race with a 2:03.358. So their pace up at the front of the field with Trey Drawhorn behind the wheel not going away anytime soon.
In fact, that is faster than their qualifying lap. Granted, it is very cool out right now. It's still only 71 Fahrenheit on the track surface. But as the sun comes up, that should increase the track temperature a fair bit. As he comes through Griffin's Bend, he's actually increased it now to 3 seconds over the 775 machine. Sun, love that, glinting off the racetrack here as he climbs the hill.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff there to be able to see that as we give a little bit of a focus here on that leading car. They've got plenty of clean racetrack in front of them, so it's just a matter of focusing in here, Joe, and not running outside your limits. But at the same time, you don't actually want to back off coming up and down the mountain. I've talked to many, many drivers, and they say if you start to back off a little bit, if you start to relax, even when you've got a big lead, what that'll do is it'll throw off your rhythm coming up and down the hill. And this is such a rhythmic part of the track. You've just got to feel it out and let those the sort of instincts guide you, that backing off by even just a tenth can throw you off enough to be able to cause an accident.
Well, here's Mike Sachs, currently 5th in the GT4s. That's Will Kelly directly in front of us. Can't see it in his mirrors right now, but Rich Minkler is kind of plugged up behind them in the GT3s, just trying to stay patient. And he's giving up a little bit of time to try and save the car, not wanting to risk it where it's almost impossible to overtake the slower classes. There he is right now, and his patience is going to be rewarded because he finally finds it opening up down the Conrad.
Yeah, he's finally going to get that opportunity to be able to work his way by, and there goes the 83 swinging on by as well. That's the Dre GT car as they go. But right now, there we continue to work our way around. Here's Code Red trying to close in a little bit as well. Is he going to be able to get that move done before they go into the chase? He's certainly going to go for it later on the binders, and the GT3 machinery missed the apex there a little bit, but still made it work.
Kept it on the track. That's the important thing. I was with you. I thought he was going off into the grass there, but he carries on, and unfortunately is a ways to get up to Dre. He's lost about 2.5 seconds to that number 83. Back to Ivan Gomez now, or up to Ivan Gomez, if anything, in the number 18 machine. This is Scott Kessel that you see in the windscreen currently, fighting for 9th place, getting close to the first half-hour mark of this race. So they are certainly getting into it here, about 1/6 of the way through as it sits. And he's actually closing in, it feels like, through each of the corners. Wonder if maybe that 18's a little bit faster.
Yeah, it looked like he's just maybe a little bit braver on the binders, able to get the car to rotate a little bit better. So we continue to ride on board. Yeah, that gap staying relatively solid here, coming up the hill through the parks right now. And they continue to go. Loses a little bit of time there coming through Solomon Park. Now they're going to bring their way through McPhillamy. You're going to have that little bit of give and take there, Joe. And that's frankly as a result of that aero wash that I talked about not too long ago.
Yeah, you definitely don't want an understeery car with the walls right there. You talked about how it's effectively a street course with the way it's used as public roads for most of the time, and there's barriers right along either side, all along the mountain. As they come out of Forest Elbow, this is where it opens up a little bit, both with the throttle and with the sides, seeing a little bit of grass to give them some leeway. But unfortunately for Dreadnought, Gomez has lost a bit of that slipstream here, and this is when he needs it down Conrad to try and catch up to the number one. So Kessel is going to stay safe, at least for the time being, as he completes lap 13 now.
Yeah, 13 laps in the book here at this point. That gap, by the way, extending out to about 8/9 of a second. We're going to jump back here right on board with Michael Patterson in the Matrix Silver machine as these GT4 entries make their way through the chase. Now, that's Backmarker Motorsports, right up in front of them with Mike Sachs behind the wheel and trying to close that gap down. It's a little bit closer than we saw with Shake and Bake and Dreadnought. It's down to about 0.7 of a second here at this point, so should be able to close in narrower line there, narrow entry coming into Murray's Corner, and that's going to cost a little bit of time for Matrix Silver.
It definitely did, and they are falling back off of them. Now, speaking of falling back, I just saw a car in pit lane. Matrix Green is in there. This cannot be a scheduled stop. I'm checking to see if they had any sort of issue. They've been in there for about 1.5 minutes, so this must have been somewhat recent. It does look like they drove it back in, and we may have found a replay here. Let's see. This is coming up the hill, just past all the parks here. Oh, no, don't tell me it is in a McPhillamy. That's such a fast place. And unfortunately, they paid a heavy price for just being slightly off.
Yeah, and that is exactly the dangers of running up and down the mountain. You can see it there, just catches it, and David Fernandez here thanking his lucky stars that that car did not careen across the track. Good heads up for Fernandez, though, kind of tapping on the brakes, backing it up a little bit, making sure that he wasn't going to run into too many problems there and avoid any problems that he could.
Well, and more than that, you saw how much the sun was glaring in his eyes at that moment, too. He could hardly make out a silhouette of what the car was doing. So a great heads up to be able to woe it up and stay out of trouble in a dangerous situation, as we watch with Chris Braun, who is definitely on the attack here, going by some more of our GT4 cars. That second place Breaking Bad Racing, Rodney Campbell just letting him go. Last 10th with Braun currently in 7th for the GT3s.
Yeah, and that's Marble Motors up ahead with Dave Craig that you see him trying to close down on that 999 machine. The gap holding here at about 1.3 seconds. So he's not going to get the benefit of the draft here at this point, but he just wants to try to put as much pressure as he can to the back of that Marble Motors machine, especially coming up and down over the mountain. If you're able to just fill the rear view mirrors a little bit, that's just going to promote a little bit of a mistake to potentially fire off, and that'll be a good thing if you are behind the wheel of that 111 machine.
All right, it's our first half an hour in, so it's time for everybody's favorite part of broadcast, audience participation. Let's hope that the challenge is less Dora the Explorer and maybe trivia show for everybody watching. So here is our first question. If you want to win a set of racing gloves from Six Sigma Sim Racing, enter the answer in the chat. The question is, what was the most recent year a Porsche won the Bathurst 12-hour? And DJ, I already know you know because you have the script and you have the answer right. Yes.
Which is unfortunate because I could use a new pair of sim racing gloves.
So let's see who gets that one in. We'll give the answer out once that has been claimed by somebody. But there you go. If you got that one, make sure and enter that one in. Let's see if we can get a quick one out there and give out a free pair of sim racing gloves. As down the hill we go, out of the mountains, not out of the mountain, straight onto the Conrad Straight. We follow Ivan Gomez, still chasing Scott Kessel, the number one machine for the 9th position. They're going to head into the chase here. This was not originally part of the track here. This was added in, I believe, in the 80s. The 80s or 90s when they had an unfortunate massive incident, because it used to be that it went straight from Forest Elbow all the way down to Murray's Corner.
That is just absolutely ridiculous to think about, Joe. That kind of a run Remarkable is the only word that I can really think of to imagine that. It's a bit like trying to imagine, to put it in frankly American terms, a bit of imagining the old road Atlanta before the final chicane was added in. I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, in fact, I believe part of the concern was that the cars got a little bit airborne over some of the crests along there. They were going so fast, which is, again, really wild to think about, as we now see a few more of them coming down into the chase and try to get the car woed up. But this creates a great passing opportunity for the drivers as well. And it seems to be relatively well liked as an addition. We had a couple drivers coming into pit lane. This is interesting. Matrix Silver is pitting in. And again, we expected drivers to be pitting on the hour. So I wonder if they also got some damage somewhere.
Well, Joe, the only counter that I can give to that is that we expect them to come in on the hour, but especially for some of these GT4 machines, they tend to make it about 45 to 50 minutes on a tank of fuel, unless you're doing some serious pushing. So I wonder if they're trying to do the cover of early here of a splash and dash. We do take a look at Patterson here. Oh, he did pick up a little bit of damage.
Well, not just damage. The reason he came in was a black flag. Yeah. So Patterson copped that one from the stewards, who did not like that car contact, sent him on a drive-through. He's back out in 9th position. Let's not forget, they not only have the live stewards here to watch for stuff like that, they also have an incident limit over this 3 hours, only 18. That's actually pretty few. Even at Bathurst, that's going to rack up here. And then they get a drive-through penalty. Every 6 beyond that, they're going to get another drive-through penalty until they reach 30, at which point they'll be disqualified. Let's cross our fingers we don't see that happen.
Yeah, exactly. And thankfully, this isn't a circuit where you can pick up a lot of off tracks by pushing the limits necessarily. As we've talked about, it's really a straight circuit coming up and down over the hill. And so if you get an off track, well, you're probably going to be picking up more than just 1X. It's not like Spa where you can run very wide and pick up a few. So we should be good from drivers from that perspective, I would have to think. But nevertheless, something to keep an eye on over the course of today.
Indeed. So Patterson returns in 9th, as I mentioned, chasing Keenerin in the 93. That's Charlie Boyer. Charlie's picked up a few spots after their early incident themselves, where they had their spin out of Murray's corner. And he has done a good job of just getting back into the thick of things. Again, it is an endurance race, DJ. If you have a problem, there's no reason to give up immediately.
No, there certainly isn't. If you've got a problem, come back down into pit lane, get it taken care of, and head yourself back out onto track. You never know what you're going to be able to pick up from some of these runs. As we watch here, pretty good battle down into the corner. Whoo, barely able to hold that ahead. There he is, the number 29 of Matrix Silver.
Things getting close, and Boyer trying to get the spot back for Patterson. Nope. He is not going to be able to do it. He backs out of it down into Murray's corner and has to give it up for now. It kind of makes sense. Silver's probably going to be just a little bit quicker than them, since they were set back by that penalty. But good to see them try and fight for it, at least for now. And the drivers now just about through this first hour. We've got about 25 more minutes left to go. Let's not forget that this is a team race, and that will also play a dynamic in this event, as drivers will find an ebb and a flow of who's got pace in each team, especially between the Pro and the AMs. Got to try and find that quick AM driver if you're in the Pro-Am category of either of the classes. This, though, is one of the Pro-Ams being currently driven by the Pro of Trey Drawhorn, now leading by about 3.5 seconds. So he's not really been running completely away from that Eureka team here, DJ. At 3.7 now. It looks like it's increasing a little bit. But they were, I want to say about 20 minutes ago, still about 3 seconds apart from one another. So I'd say that Schwartz kind of keeping it honest here.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, Joe, and that's exactly what you want to do if you are running in that second place position for Dave Schwartz. You just want to keep everything nice and easy and nice and together. You know that that car up in front of you, that Hydro Race JRT team, is going to have a little bit of a good run. want to just try to control it as much as possible and limit any damage. See if you can maybe elicit a mistake by making them glance at that relative box a little bit too often.
Rodney Campbell currently sitting second in the GT4s right now. Much bigger difference down there. Rattray's 12 seconds ahead. And then we've got Will Kelly here in P4 in the GT Pro AMs as he is trying to catch up to Matrix Orange, about 6 seconds apart between them. Joachim Baker, though, leads in the GT4 AMs, as he sits third out of all the GT4s. We mentioned that a little bit earlier, so definitely doing quite well out there right now as we take a glance at Brett Holmes back in fifth in the GT4s, and Fernandez also trying to chase after him. That battle that we saw earlier in the mid-pack and the GT4s has definitely spread quite a ways apart. They aren't even really in the same pictures as one another for most of the time. By the way, I got some information behind the scenes on that incident. I was right initially that it was in the 80s. 1986 apparently was when they had the huge accident that sadly took the life of Mike Bergman when he hit the barrier at 162 miles an hour. So no wonder they had to slow it up through there.
Yeah, that is a hefty impact. He was declared dead at arrival at the Bathurst Hospital, and the next year in 1987 was the first year that they added the chase in. And as you said, Joe, it's been a welcome addition here. It hasn't really tamed this circuit at all. It is still a fearsome beast to try to work your way around, and it's just a good addition in the name of safety, and certainly we can always be thankful for that. But right now we've got a little bit of a battle on our hands. Shake and Bake Master and Dreadnought Racing closing in under 0.5 of a second.
This is looking spicy here coming up out of the cutting as the pair of them try to vie for the 9th position. We were watching this a little bit earlier. Kessel holds the position right now, the track position advantage, with Gomez just barely 0.3 of a second behind, down through McPhillamy Park, swinging across the track. Very blind crest coming over Skyline and into the S's here, braking and slowing the car as it weaves back and forth for the Dipper. And then once again, it continues to cut back and forth between the walls before finally you get to the end of the mountain and down the hill out of Forest Elbow.
And now comes where that draft is going to come into play here. Interestingly, this is an AM driver ahead of a pro driver, so we could see this gap fluctuate a little bit more as Scott Kessel is an AM, Ivan Gomez a pro. Gap's coming down here at this point, and the other driver that we've got to keep our eye on is Rich Minkler in that DRE GT machine, only about 2 seconds back. If these two really start to squabble, we could see a good battle taking place.
Absolutely, and with it having been 10 minutes, we've got our right answer in for the racing gloves here from Six Sigma Sim Racing. Jonathan Schum claimed it, and the correct answer, it was 2019. An interesting tie-in with a Porsche racing great. The team was Earl Bamber Racing that won in the Porsche.
Well, that's a name that we all know quite well. Very interesting indeed.
And if you are the winner, Jonathan Schum, just email Ryan at podiumesports.com. We'll get you hooked up there and get you your prize. So, continuing to follow now up through the cutting with Kessel still holding off Gomez. In front of them, they've got Garrett Taylor. He's a GT4 car, so they're going to catch him in a bad spot. Is this what Gomez has been looking for?
I think it could be. I think that's a lot of what we're going to see here out of these drivers as they continue to try to work their way ahead. You're going to be looking for these back markers and going to be praying a little bit that they're going to catch you at just the right time there. We see a little bit of move down to the inside. That's super aggressive coming through Skyline. It's going to force that GT4 off wide.
Yeah, both of them trying to stay patient through there, and Garrett Taylor just giving them enough space. Good heads up to see that coming. This has now brought Rich Minkler closer to them as well. You'll just catch him there in the background. Now also stuck behind Garrett Taylor. And, well, all that he gained slips away. That shows you the ebb and the flow that happens with mixed class racing here at Bathurst.
Yeah, it certainly does change things up a little bit, make things a little bit more interesting, as it were, as we continue to go. We ride on board with Tamer Albaga right now, as this is another little battle between them and Last Tenth Racing as they work their way through traffic.
Trey, oh, and there's contact. That was with Chris Braun, who was in 7th in the GT3 class, and now he's going to get it back going. Did hit the wall, so might be a little bit of damage. My bigger concern there is Rattray going to get a penalty out of that?
Yeah, he could certainly. Let's take another look here at the run down into the corner.
Excuse me, that wasn't Rattray, rather. That was, who was that?
That's the 111 machine for Last 10th. That's Chris Braun.
No, I was talking about the one that tipped him around, the yellow machine.
Oh.
That was, no, that was Elbaga. That was Worstrinen. So that was the 982 that made that contact.
I don't know. It looks like a little bit of a racing deal there, potentially, because I think you've got a little bit of an over-aggressive move. We've got that same car, Albaga, pulling off to the side.
Oh, this was a self-made error. It could have been maybe a little bit of damage from that contact, because this was into the cutting, trying to turn to the left, and they made contact on the right-hand side of the car. Watch this. It almost does look like maybe it got a little loose and then smack into the outside wall. They have to take a tow. So, unfortunately, things go from bad to worse. Even if they do get a penalty, it's kind of a moot point now.
Yeah, let's watch it here. Joe just brings too much speed. That's as simple as it is. He just brings too much speed into the corner, the rear end of the car, refuses to comply, and just kind of breaks away a little bit for him on there. And yeah, that's all she wrote.
Well, for that Worstrinen team, it seems the mustard has slipped off the hot dog, so they find themselves in pit lane. Whoa, what's going on with Boyer here? Suddenly going slow and causing a big headache for a bunch of cars.
Not sure what that is. That's not an area of the track where I would say to get out of it and let some drivers by. Oh, we got a little bit of a bump from behind. And maybe that is just... He's trying to let cars go at a bad spot there. If I were him, I would have taken the slowdown penalty and stuck off to the left there coming down through Skyline.
Was he giving a slowdown penalty? That'd be a very strange place to have to hand that in. Whatever the case, yeah, if he was trying to let them through, that is one of the absolute worst places to try and do it. I'm sure he didn't make too many friends with that move as we continue to watch here on board, heading up the hill. And this is the likes, once again, of Gomez trying to get away from Shake and Bake. We're trying to keep up with them, and also Rich Minkler as well. Minkler sitting in 9th in the GT3 class. That's about a second up the road to the Shake and Bake number 1 with Scott Kessel in the car.
Yeah, and as they now bring their way up the hill, trying to see what they are able to do. That gap still holding over a second here at this point. Again, this is just all going to be about patience, Joe, and not trying to overdrive your car coming through this portion of the track. You've got to just try to keep things together. Here we got a little bit of a closer running of Shake and Bake. Lost a lot of time there.
Yeah, this was a great run up the hill there from Dre GT. Suddenly making quite a race of it. If they can stay this close out of Forest Elbow, they're going to be a great position. Let's see who gets the exit. Oh, that's pretty deep, unfortunately, for Rich. He keeps it off the wall, but all that speed is gone.
Yeah, all that speed's going to be gone, just getting a little bit too tight going down into Forest Elbow, and that's where you've got to be careful. You cannot be too easy letting things away. And crucial to note here that this number 1 machine, the Shake and Bake car, that is your leading AM class car right now, so they're in good position here at this point.
Yeah, and Dre is racing for the Pro-Am, so that's 2 different classes, but there's still the pride of the overall GT3 finishing order, so I'm sure he won't be wanting to wait around too much. We go to Peter Kummer now, currently 13th, and he's going to overtake the 208 GT3 racing team. Franznik does not fight it. In fact, he looked a little slow along that straightaway.
Yeah, he certainly did. I wonder if that may have been a little bit of a lift situation. He just kind of read the writing on the wall and wanted to get out of it. I'm not entirely sure what that was, but the 333 able to get that situation and move their way up forward.
We'll take a replay. So here's Franznik. Maybe just a little glance of the wall somewhere in there.
There's a big checkup behind the two GT4s in front of him.
Oh! And he does get going without incident. Wow, I am amazed. That is extremely rare to be that close to a car ahead that has an accident in the dipper and not run into him or hit anything.
Yeah, that's really impressive. Great heads up as they ran the car down the hill like that. To be able to slam on the binders, you know, these cars, they're not single-seaters. They are a little bit heavier. They're a little bit heftier. They're not the easiest to actually get stopped on a dime like that, so that was very impressive. So now we ride on board with Rich Minkler trying to make his way forward.
Yep, watching him still trying to stay within touch of Kessel just ahead. And as they dip around the GT4 car of Christian Rava, now they've been freed up. It's once again just not quite there for that Dre GT car that needs to be a bit closer along Conrad. He's going to pull him in, but the number one looks like he should be able to retain position here as long as he gets his braking right down into the chase, which he does. Another of our GT4s just in front of him. The fifth place machine. Looks like Brett Holmes sees him coming and pulls off to the side.
Good heads up there from Brett, making sure he got out of the way. Going to have a little bit of a look there going down into Murray's corner, but that's not going to play itself out. Again, it just looks like here the Dre GT and Rich Minkler, they're able to get time. They're able to get speed back, Joe, but it's just at all the wrong places on the track where they really want to get it, and it's increasingly difficult for them to try to get that move up forward.
Yeah, it is. It's been probably a bit frustrating for them. How much quicker are they? Are they quicker? Are they being pulled along potentially by Kessel's shake and bake car? It'll be an answer that we'll have to get maybe if one of them takes a pit stop or if he does manage to get the pass done at some point. Just in front of him, that third car that you saw in your picture, that was Ivan Gomez. So that is within class that they're trying to catch back up to. And there was a fight between guys like Kessel and Gomez a little bit earlier on, so they're kind of losing touch there.
Yeah, they're losing a little bit of ground here at this point, and that's going to be one of the big problems when you start to get into those battles, when you start to get into that fight as they continue to go, is that you're really going to find yourself slowing down quite a bit over the course of a lap if you are running side by side. And obviously we talked about already how you can get slowed down coming up and over the hill here. Very easy to do if you're behind a slower car.
Things getting a little bit packed up now, and well, I said how much that he'd run away, but Gomez now loses it all. Well, he's got to pick the right way, and he has to check up as he didn't expect Adams to stay off to the left-hand side as there's that little jink in the straight out of the corner, and this has allowed Kessel to get close. No, he's going to lift, and that's actually going to give up a position. Minkler finally gets what he's been trying for.
Well, that tells me here at this point that looking at that shake and bake team with Kessel, I think he's doing a little bit of fuel saving here, Joe. I think he's thinking about the long-term effects of this race and certainly wants to try to delay coming into the pits as long as possible.
Apparently. Now, real quickly, again, a reminder that Six Sigma Sim Racing is the official sponsor of today's Bathurst 3 Hours. It's the second round of the PCA Sim Racing Team Racing Series. And if you want to get 15% off of any Six Sigma Sim Racing product, use the code that you see on the screen. Go to sixsigmasimracing.com, enter the code, and shop away as maybe get a late Valentine's Day present for yourself, I suppose.
I could certainly be convinced of that. To be able to do that, I could use a few things around the house brought to me by Six Sigma Sim Racing. The great company and a really cool history. Really kind of one of those Phoenix companies that started during the course of the pandemic and rose up and has now made a great name for themselves in the sim racing world.
Absolutely. Sim racing has blown up since 2020 in a big way. And right now, Gomez is trying not to blow up his race. Still in 7th now that Minkler's been able to take that P8. And Minkler's sizing him up. He had it pretty easy, though, in the case of Scott Kessel. I'm not sure if we'll see Gomez be as compliant about giving this spot up as they get very close down through Forest Elbow.
Yeah, they're getting very perilously close there, but that's going to be good news here for Rich Minkler. I think he may be able to have the draft here. He's only about under 0.2 of a second behind. He's going to be pushing as much as he can to try to get his way back up. Let's see if he's able to make that move. Not quite close enough.
No, just can't make it stick right here. The thing he's got to be worried about, though, is that Kessel is still right behind him. So if Minkler makes a move and it goes south, then I'm sure that number 1 will be there to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, you're very much right about that. And Kessel, if he's running the strategy I expect him to be running, which is a little bit more of a pit stop strategy here, a fuel-saving strategy, watch for him to not be too aggressive on the move. He's going to want to wait it out a little bit, but if an opportunity presents itself, he'll go for it.
Oh, and that was Kessel off right there in the background. He's into the wall coming out of Hell Corner. Oh, goodness. And I think that was self-induced. Just got a little bit of the grass maybe. And unfortunately, it looks like it may have damaged the car. He's trying to shake it around, see if it's in good condition. He doesn't have a black and orange flag, so he's not going to be forced to come in pit lane if he feels like it's still drivable. Let's see here. Oh, hot into the turn.
Yep, just too much speed into the corner, understeer on corner exit, and he had really no way to control that as it went around. A very, very tough break for Scott Kessel, but it just goes to show you, you have got to be on it at every single inch of this track.
So checking out Dave Schwartz now here in the Eureka machine. When did he get this close to Drawhorn? Has traffic closed them in, or did he do this through pace?
Well, it looks like on the last 2 laps here, Joe, that Schwartz has been able to take out about 1.4, 1.3 seconds respectively out of the time. So he's certainly got the outright pace to be able to do this. And there, another half a tenth taken out.
Ooh, we had an incident down through the Dipper. Mark Nistor in the 26 and Paul Nemshoff in the 248 with a bit of contact that left the Wonder Bread car facing the wrong way, which is a really nightmarish situation to be in. Already looks that maybe Nemshoff was slow for some reason here. Let's see. Oh, and he goes deep, hits the wall, and there's the contact.
And unfortunately looked like a little bit of air in between those cars. But yeah, he's able to get the car spun back around here. But that is such a terrifying situation to be. You know you're faced the wrong way. You know you don't want to be like that. You're just trying to get yourself around as quickly as possible.
Wow, he had a good break in traffic there. Very, very lucky. And was eventually able to get the car facing the right way. So crisis averted. And everybody carries on. Meanwhile, still watching Drawhorn versus Schwartz. The closest this fight has been since the start of this race.
Yeah, and look at that gap. Now that Eureka has been able to get themselves up into that draft range, they are not letting it go here at this point. I would not be surprised if we start to get a little bit more of a press here on the back of this Hydro Race JRT machine as they come down now out of Forest Elbow, about 0.5 of a second the gap right now. That's not going to be close enough for Eureka to close in, I think, but it's going to be certainly enough for them to put some pressure on the back.
Yeah, he's going to be able to at least keep him looking in his mirrors for now. But I wonder if he will maybe just hold behind and do what you mentioned earlier about using the slipstream. Does he want the track position yet? Since we're getting close to pit stops, could he use this to save just a little bit of fuel and then try to leapfrog him over strategy?
That could be a little bit of a way to do it as well. Haven't thought about that, but yeah, that certainly could be the way that he tries to get himself up forward, and I would not be surprised to see if that's exactly what he tries to do here at this point.
Off of Hell Corner onto the mountain straight once again. He is still there. This is about 8 seconds ahead of Imperial Motorsports. Pi is still unable to catch up to them. In fact, you just saw a flash of him in the background. to get an idea of what the distance is between them. And not going to be close enough into Griffin's Bend quite yet. So the Eureka car, whatever the case, has decided it's not worth getting too aggressive here, not showing himself, just kind of hovering there and being menacing.
And I think at this stage in the race, Joe, that's absolutely called for. You don't need to be too aggressive. You just got to kind of hold on to it. And we've talked a little bit about filling those rear view mirrors, filling those rear view cameras, trying to make your car as big as possible to see if you can elicit an error. And that's exactly here what Dave Schwartz is doing, and I love it for him.
Looks like we have another penalty. Paul Nimshoff, I believe, for the contact that was down right here in this corner through the dipper. So the one that turned the Wonder Bread number 26 car around. He'll have to come in and serve that drive-through penalty shortly. Lap traffic just caught at the right time if you're Trey Drawhorn. Not coming soon enough if you're Dave Schwartz, and they will carry on by the GT4.
And they'll be able to get their way on by it, although it does look like Eureka has lost just a little bit of time there in that running, maybe about 0.2 of a second, trying to be able to get themselves up forward. But I have a good feeling here that they'll be able to make that back with no problem.
Absolutely. So they carry on, and they got a ways to go before they get to Gone Broke Racing. The next one up the hill, though, interesting. Earlier stop for Dave Schwartz. Can he hit the pit entry good? Yes, he does. That's a tricky pit entry. You can see how much it weaves back and forth, but it looks like he gets a good run through there and now looks for his pit stall.
Yep, he's going to come on in, maybe trying to go for a little bit of an alternate strategy here to see what he's able to get, but that is going to be the first of our takers down pit lane. Now, the big problem here for Dave Schwartz and indeed Matthew Siddall, that both have to come down into pit lane here, is they're going to owe us a little bit of extra time on one of their stops, because remember, if they're able to come in at the hour mark, that's a perfect two-stop race.
Yeah, so this is just a bit early, but does look like we're going to get a driver change as Saborowski in the 775 is going to take over for Schwartz. And Eureka car should get back out there here in a bit as the number 62 carries on with the race lead. Let's stick with this at least until they get around to the pit entry and see if they respond, since it'll be almost exactly the 1 hour mark.
Yeah, I've got to think if they're able to do that, that they will be coming in. Now, granted, if they're able to extend another lap, that's going to be a big gauntlet thrown down for the rest of the field, because they've been up at the front, not really able to save all that much fuel behind in the draft. And if they're able to lift and coast and still be doing a 3-second advantage over the rest of the field before it started to slip away, that is going to be a big hallmark and a big source of concern, I think, for the rest of this field.
Indeed. So through the chase, here we go. Pit entry is going to be on the driver's left here. Will he respond? Yes, he does. Trey Drawhorn is pitting in this time. And he's got Jacob Schum and Travis Brody also on that team. Will he also swap drivers now that he searches for his pit marker?
Well, I've got to think if they've got 3 other drivers on the team that they certainly will be. It looks also like Imperial Motorsports Magic Band coming down into pit lane here at this point. I think we're going to see the majority of the field coming on in.
Going to watch with Dave Craig now. Yeah, it looks like he's coming in as well, staying off the driver's left. And just finding that brake marker, you can see him have to really crank the steering wheel in. I've seen multiple cars run into that tire barrier there to the side, so you can definitely get it wrong and feel pretty sheepish after that one. If you just take it in a little bit too hot. Marble Motors is in. Looks like the Wonder Bread 26 car is also in. Dreadnought Racing pits in. And Last Sense 111 machine. I think this might be the end of the pit window on fuel.
Yeah, I think it is as well. Like we said, about an hour or so tends to be what we are able to see here for these drivers. So not entirely surprised to see everybody coming on down into pit lane.
That's our driver who should get back into second place, but the bad news for them, look at the gap. Jacob Schum gets in for Trey Drawhorn and absolutely leaves the next car back, the Eureka machine, just in the dust.
That is remarkable. 6 seconds, the gap there, Joe. And as I take a look right now at the pit stop times, it actually looked like they had a longer time in the box, but they were a little bit faster down pit lane itself. But that is just a remarkable time for Hydro Race.
Jesse Lyon is in fourth. He took over for Pies in the Imperial Motorsports Magic Man car, and that is the fight for third, with Matrix Bronze, appropriately, having Matthew Siddall still in the car. He's already taken his stop, so there's no driver change for that team. Before we get to the GT4 pit stops here, though, we're going to take just a short little break. We're not leaving you, though. Let's listen to the beautiful sounds that iRacing has managed to recreate of the Porsche GT3R and the Porsche GT4. Welcome back to Mount Panorama Circuit. I'm Joe Peak here with DJ Clark covering the Bathurst 3 hours as PCA Sim Racing runs its second enduro event of the year. Right now, up at the top, Hydro Race JRT TM Racing leads with Trey Drawhorn having just taken his stop and given over the car to Jacob Schoon. That's in the GT3 Pro-Am category. For the GT3 AMs, up at the lead of that right now, we have Nick Melorano currently in the car. 10th overall in the GT3s, running for Shake and Bake Racing. He took over for Scott Kessel after his pit stop 3 laps ago. DJ, how are we sitting down in the GT4 class?
Well, in that GT4 class, it is Ian Simon in the Simrat Racing Machine leading the way up in that Pro-Am category, rather, that number 22 machine, doing a very good job of keeping everything together. Then as we look down into the Pro-Am category, it is, I believe here, Matt Owens in the Gone Broke Racing Machine sitting in 3rd overall in category, doing a very good job. As there we see that machine actually coming in and getting service in pit lane.
Indeed, they just pitted right before we came back from break. Question is, will they still be able to hold on to that here? Because I think they're among the last of them that needs to take a pit stop. And for some reason, Matrix Orange with Mark Lacombe has spent a very long stop. It's been 1.5 minutes. Now, did they have some sort of penalty coming in there?
I'm not sure. I would have to imagine that they did. I don't see anything on the official channels from Race Control. I wonder if that may have been one given by the sim. Maybe they sped down in pit lane.
Yeah, that's my best guess. And we are seeing 0 incidents for them, so it seems they've been clean. That seems to be the most likely answer, just speeding in pit lane, because they haven't hit anything out there and had to take repairs. Bit of a strange one, no doubt. Meanwhile, coming up the hill, we see the battle once again between the 26 and now Marble Motors. Bob Rose has taken over for Dave Craig in that machine. This is for the 5th position in the GT3s. They come upon a slower GT4 car, Point Break, kind of being caught at a bad spot. Whoa, and a spin off the course. That's going to put Bob Rose into the wall.
Oh my goodness, it all coming back to bite here for Bob Rose. Let's take a look as he's able to get that car at least pointed the wrong way. That's going to be another car into the wall. I believe that's going to be Albano there in the 57. Big track blockage.
Yeah, so he's going to try and get this thing turned around, has to do a K-turn. And unfortunately for Albano, he's now in the same position that the car that caused him to be facing the wrong way. As we're going to watch Bob Rose, this is all his own doing, just going in a little bit deep into here.
Yeah, he's going to bring the car down just a little bit too much speed. You see that rear end snap away from him a little bit. Not at all what he wants to have happen. And then he tries to get himself turned back around, trying to keep an eye on that relative, sees the other cars coming, just stands on the binders as he should be, and unfortunately just has to take a tow with as crazy of a situation as that was.
I'm sure it's no consolation for Albano, who found himself losing a ton of time, but yeah, he eventually decided to take a tow, which is honestly often the best decision in that situation at a track like this. But he did so after he kind of blocked the racing line there at a very blind corner. So the Blue Thunder machine is back running. Albano actually, I believe, so for poor Gabriel, this is his first lap out on track right now. He comes around through the dipper the first time. Oh, and he's got to take it right back into pit lane after that. Must have had some sort of damage that was just a bit much for them, and is going to have to get it repaired. So he didn't even get a full lap of racing in before he ran into trouble.
You really hate to see that for him. A very, very tough break. Very, very difficult. And now he's going to have to come back into pit lane, get a little bit of damage report on the car. But we take a look on board here. A nice little battle. This is Dreadnought and Shake and Bake.
They've been at each other's throats for quite some time, and Melorano, who has picked up the torch, is able to overtake as Bob Moore falls back into 9th position. And so despite being two different drivers compared to before, they just can't seem to get away from one another.
Nope, just not really able to break themselves away here at this point, but that's the kind of action that we love to see out on track here as they continue to fight their way up through the hill. It does look like that Shake and Bake's going to have a little bit of an advantage here. Melorano pulling away from Moore slightly up and over the hill.
What surprises me is we haven't seen a lot of movers and shakers in terms of position in the GT3s. In fact, the hardest charger right now I see is up 5. That's Laughing Clown, and the 333 we haven't really shown a whole lot of that have gained the most. Followed closely by Matrix Bronze, who have gained 4 in the 55. So as we come out of Forest Elbow once again here, just moving on around Matt Owens. Melorano unfortunately losing a little bit of touch over well, not unfortunately. Fortunately for him, it's Bob Moore, unfortunately, losing touch, rather, with Melorano at this stage. In fact, he's going to be split by a GT4 car by the time they get to the breaking of the chase.
Yeah, going to have a little bit of problem there. Ooh, that GT4 car, actually, another one up in front, just took a tow. I think that may have been Point Break Esports having a problem running down into the chase, as now they're going to be able to get their way around that GT4, as that was Joe Evers, by the way, in the 19th placed 208 GT4 Racing Green Team.
Sounds like Bob Rose was given a black flag, I assume, for trying to get his car turned around. So Brandon Harrison, this is the one that you were talking about, Point Break Esports. Let's see what happens here. Slows it up fine into the corner, and then suddenly has a big blink. Wonder if he lost visual or something, if there was some sort of software hiccup, and he pulled it off the track. Thankfully, was off the racing line, at least enough, and then had to take a tow. Well, part of endurance racing is the fact that sometimes it is outlasting your opponents, and we're starting to see a few mistakes and a few of them drop here and there.
Yeah, a few little blips and bobbles here, a few little problems that they're going to run into as we jump on board with the Matrix Bronze, number 55. They're actually coming up here to the 775 of Eureka. Remember, Eureka was the chasers here. They were the ones that were really putting the pressure to the back of Behind Her Race JRT Racing. They're now finding themselves in a battle for second place with Matrix Bronze.
I talked about the fact that the pace can ebb and flow depending on the driver that you get in the car, and it seems like for Matrix Bronze, Siddall might be just that little bit. No, actually, Siddall has been in the car. Yeah, that hasn't changed. It's Siborowski, so maybe it's Chris in the Eureka machine having taken over for Schwartz that's lost a little bit of pace here and is unfortunately falling by the wayside. So he comes out through Quarry and up over the crest into the various parts along the top of the hill now. He's at least got that going his way, making it easier to hold back Siddall through this portion. But once they get down the Conrad, he could be just slightly under threat.
Yeah, and he's trying to pull as much of a gap here as he can. The gap's about 0.7 of a second right now. That means there's going to be a little bit of slipstream as we check out a replay here. This is Aaron Nations, I think, getting into some problems.
This is into the cutting. It's another car going deep. Yeah, I'd say so. And just kind of slides along the wall. Great job keeping it from bouncing back into the racing line. But yeah, the car looks pretty bad there coming off and is trying to carry on to get his way back to the pit lane. Just crunched it up on the right-hand side, unfortunately. And at least he made it over the top of the mountain. But will he have to come into pit lane to try and take some repairs before they get to their scheduled pit stop? Meanwhile, back to Matt Owens here sitting in 5th for Gone Broke Racing. He's chasing on the 208 team. That's just under a second between them currently as they come up Mountain Straight and into Griffin's Bend. Not going to be able to catch him quite there, but the last lap for Matt Owens was a 2:19.2, whereas Joseph Evers ran a 2:19.1. So actually, Evers slightly faster that time by, and he was about 0.2 slower on the previous lap. So they're pretty closely matched.
Yeah, they're very closely matched here, Joe, and there's just a little bit of ebb and flow in terms of time that they're going to have to keep their eyes on and make sure that they don't let any of that slip in here, or certainly let any of that come away. As if you're matched that tightly, even just the most errant little mistake can throw you off a little bit. But now as we watch them, looks like they've got a little bit of company. That's Steve Komatz in the Laughing Clown Master Machine coming up behind. And Komatz actually is going to be bringing another car with them. I think that's the number 11 machine there of Randall Ayers, who's not too far behind him, only about 1 second behind.
Yeah, so this is a battle for 10th. As I said, the Laughing Cloud car has made up the most positions of anyone currently. And I gotta say, that's probably some of the more clever theming I've seen on a car, because what strikes fear more into people than seeing a clown suddenly in the mirror?
Yeah, that's absolutely terrifying. So a very, very good nomenclature there for them. Does look like 208 GT3 Racing is going to be able to slip their way by Gone Broke and 208 GT4 Green. So those two battles are going to be able to work off into their own space here at this point.
Yeah, get away from all the lap traffic. It's not the biggest field we've seen here at only 28 starters. We've so far only lost one of them, the 982 of Werstrinen, unfortunately, our only DNF so far in this event. So 27 cars still out there, but I've seen a lot larger fields and a lot more packed racetracks than what we've got currently, especially with it being over 2 minutes to get around this circuit. So they've all got some breathing space. I'm sure it doesn't make it any less frustrating when you hit the traffic coming over the mountain. But regardless, this has been a very well-behaved field.
Yeah, very well behaved. And as we've kind of been harping on this entire race, it's all just a matter of good, clean, traditional racing. Everybody doing what they need to do. We've seen plenty of space given here among competitors. We've seen plenty of respect for drivers as here comes Sedal on a move coming up into Griffin's Bend. Looks like Eureka there and Siborowski just kind of let him on by.
Yeah, that was a long time coming. But Siddall has got himself now up into second. Is he also faster than Jacob Schum is the question, who currently leads for Hydro Race. Nobody has really been able to touch them except for the Eureka team last time out with Dave Schwartz towards the end of the stint. Is this also going to see the 55 suddenly come alive here? Well, unfortunately, that'll have to wait because David Boyer, who is going to let him through coming down into McPhillamy, and as well is going to just give space to Chris in the Eureka machine, unfortunately will cost both cars a little bit of time. But no harm, no foul, and the drivers have been able to at least keep out of trouble in that sense. Now, before we get back to the racing, another quick message that this race is brought to you by Six Sigma Sim Racing, and they've got a special promo code that is only during this race for 15% off. There it is on the screen right now. Use that promo code at sixsigmasimracing.com, and you can get anything in the store. That's all of their sim racing items in their store, 15% off if you use that code. So head on over there during the race and make sure to use it and take advantage of this awesome limited time offer.
Yeah, jump on over there. I'm not going to lie to you, during the break, I was checking out a few things of my own, just keeping an eye on everything and seeing what there was to be able to get in. Some very impressive stuff on Six Sigma Sim Racing. So if you are a fan, I would highly, highly recommend jumping on over there and checking that out.
Oh, Laughing Clown just got overtaken by 208 into Griffin's Bend. This just happened. And the 208, we were kind of watching them, gathering them up, and they eventually got close enough that they made a successful attack here. So they're now into the top 10.
Yeah, up into the top 10. We're going to take a look at the replay here at this point, and it looks like it's a pretty standard run here on Laughing Clown to be able to be overtaken here at this point. 208 GT3 just tucks behind in the slipstream, slips off to the right-hand side, and pushes their way on forward. Laughing Clown tried to respond there a little bit coming into the corner, but just wasn't able to make it work.
Interesting to note as well, I just realized these are the last two cars on the lead lap right now. That was very wide for Steve Komatz. He may have brushed the wall there. I think he got away with it. If he did touch it, it was very, very slight, but that was down into the dipper once again. And that corner has caught many a driver out. It's not just the curving entry and the drop in elevation. It's the fact that the name is because of the fact that the wheels can sometimes come off the ground a little bit.
Yeah, they certainly can, as here they're going to keep themselves together right now, and you've got to be very, very careful with that elevation change, the wheels coming off. You'll kind of notice it when it happens, Joe. The car just feels light all of a sudden and breaks away from you a little bit, and it just helps if you are really locked in on feeling out the car and knowing what it's doing to be able to keep that under control.
Getting very close to the halfway mark of this race, so things are really getting into the thick of it now as we get back to this battle for P2. With bronze ahead of Eureka now, they've switched around, and that's not for position behind them. That is two other class cars. But credit to the 775. Siborowski is not giving up on things. He's keeping them close to his chest as we take a look. I mentioned about the fact that the traffic isn't bad. That is how separated we are currently.
Yeah, everybody pretty much spread out across the track here at this point, trying to see what they are able to do. And right now, it looks like we're not going to have too much to deal with. And that's going to be a big, big help for a lot of the drivers in that GT3 category. They're not going to have to deal with a whole lot of GT4s getting in the way, separating up those battles. So if we start to see a battle start to take place, it means it's probably going to carry on for a couple of laps at this rate.
Absolutely. So the laps may take a while to happen. We won't have that many before we get to the pit stops, but it is halfway through the stint for these drivers. So it doesn't look like Chris had a very good run this time, though. He is falling away from about half a second back and about 1.1 off of the Matrix bronze machine. So they do approach a bit of traffic. It's the Matrix Orange, one of their sister team cars, the number 37, kind of in an awkward spot for both of them, and all the time that was lost by the Eureka team has now been regained.
So it's battle on here between Siborowski and Matthew Sadal up at the front with them. Now that car directly up ahead of them, that is Mark Lacombe in the second place, or third place rather, a GT4 machine for Matrix Arms, and they're actually the leader there in that Pro-Am category, so they're able to pull off to the side. Smart heads up there, and they'll allow this battle to continue on.
Down to the braking of the chase here. Looking for the brake mark. You're coming at such high speed and you have to jink your way into there, and it is tough to try and hit your markers down into that one. Neither one even close to thinking about pit lane this time as they go through Murray's Corner, and the battle for P2 continues to simmer here at the halfway point of the Bathurst 3 hour. Haven't talked about it in a while, but obviously the sun continues to raise, and it's already a little past 11 a.m. now out on the track, and the temperatures have skyrocketed, DJ. Remember I said it was 71 Fahrenheit? It's already to 93 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to see that raise here a little bit more as it's just past 11 a.m. virtual standard time, and we are on a 4-time time acceleration here at this point. So that means everything's going to be coming at you at a pretty quick clip. We're going to go through basically the whole 12 hours of the Bathurst 12 over the course of this running. It's going to get hotter. I think we're going to see triple-digit Fahrenheit numbers here.
We've got Scott Bowers for Code Red in pit lane, and I think they may have hit the wall up on the mountain. I'm going to check here because it looked like they were having trouble there. Yes, they did. They had a big slap into the barrier out of McPhillamy Park. So we've got it here. And unfortunately, that curb is just diabolical. You climb on top of it like that, EJ, and, well, the results are obvious.
Yeah, it's a little bit of what we talked about. It just changes things out a little bit in the way that the car handles and the way that the car performs, as it just throws you out for a loop. And it really and truly is one of those places on the track you have got to be absolutely up on the wheel, make sure there's not a problem at all. And one driver who hasn't had that problem here at this point, Jacob Schum, even with that pass from Sadal, still able to grow the gap a little bit on the last lap. We'll have to see how he shakes down, although it looks like Sadal is going to be able to take a couple of tenths, maybe even a full second here on this lap.
Yeah, some of it can be affected by the traffic, but the Hydro Race car crosses the line. Schum hits a 2:05.1, definitely among his faster laps. He is another of our pro drivers for this Pro-Am team. And behind him, Siddall, 2:04.2. So, wow, that was about a second chopped off by the 55 team.
They're coming on like a train with a full set of steam here at this point. Clearly no pressure from behind from Eureka, even though that car is only about 1.3 seconds behind. They are not feeling that pressure. They're just continuing to push ahead here at this point, so we very well could have a race on our hands before everything is said and done.
All right, so before we get to have a race to discuss, this is probably a good time then to bring you our second question. Again, Six Sigma Sim Racing is giving away 3 sets of racing gloves. To win a pair, simply give us the correct answer to one of our 3 trivia questions. Here's question number 2. The 2010 Bathurst 12-hour had to be red flagged for a rather unusual reason. What caused the stoppage? So, 2010, a red flag. What was the reason for that one in this race? And again, SixSigmaSimRacing.com. Don't forget about their special discount code that we'll be showing all throughout the race. Oh, we've got a blockage down there into the Dipper once again. That was Randall Ayers in the 2:08.
Oh my goodness, more and more drivers falling afoul here of the Dipper. Ayers looks like he's been able to get the car back around here at this point, but that was a big checkup.
Let's take a look at what put him in that position. I'm very impressed with how well they've been doing with these issues down at the Dipper. Usually they cause some really unfortunate pileups. They have had the stewards be on the horn if the race control sees an incident like this. Oh, and big hit to the rear end. Thankfully, yes, I know his rear wing came back on. That is just the sim updating it, obviously, because wow, fantastic job by all involved. For a car being prone across the track, I am absolutely amazed nobody else got involved.
As am I. That is really and truly remarkable that everybody was able to get themselves around right now. We're going to take a look on board, though, here with Gone Broke Racing driver P5 in that GT4 category. Running along right now with Matt Owens as he tries to close down up ahead of him on Joe Evers. Looks like that gap's under a second here at this point, so that's good running for Owens. He's just got to keep up the pressure here and keep going.
Yeah, so Matt up into the top 5 at this stage. The 208 GT4 car just trying to get himself clear of that 09. Make sure that he is not under threat. And as they come down into the first turn, they're going to be split by Rich Minkler. Haven't talked about that Dre GT car for a while. They were kind of giving us a lot of action for a good moment.
Yeah, they really were there for a good long while, and it looks like they've just kind of faded back into a little bit of calm running. We're at that really the halfway point here in this, well, not really, Joe, we are at the halfway point in this race. But this is the point in the race where you're not going to see a lot of side-by-side action. You're not going to see a lot of duking it out. This is really and truly where you're just going to be in your rhythm, and you're just going to be running the race around here to your own speed. You're going to be running to that delta time that we talked about. The drivers and teams will have a prescribed time that they put down that is going to maximize fuel saving, that's going to minimize lap time, and that's the point that all these drivers are going to be trying to work towards.
Yep, so the 62 who comes down to complete lap 44 in this race with a gap of about 5 seconds. We were talking about it was a huge gain for the Matrix Bronze car a couple laps ago. This time out, 2:05.5 for the 62 and a 2:06.1 for Siddall behind him. So this time it was slower for the 55, bit of a back and forth between them. We'll tend to expect that with the traffic causing a few laps to be quicker, a few laps to have some problems along the way. So 55's got work to do, but at times we do see that he can be quicker than Jacob Schum. So it all depends on how this all shakes out with that traffic. Well, speak of the devil, the leader's caught up to a fair bit of it.
Yes, indeed, he has, as they all now try to get their way around right now, trying to see what he is able to do, and he's going to have to try to work his way by the number 11 machine here at Breaking Bad Racing. Going to be able to get on by, and that's going to be good news there for him. So that 62 just continues to kind of pace through the field, but they've got to get a move on. Matrix Bronze only 1.9 behind here at this point. They're coming on strong. That
was a huge hit in time for Hydro Race. I talked about how it can really cause a back and forth there, and yeah, that some of it did get paid back because Bronze had to then overtake this slow GT4 car, and they've got the Laughing Clown machine in front of them, which, yes, they are not obligated to have to immediately pull over, but obviously the stewards will not want him trying to intentionally defend. He pulls off to the side. Got to think that he's probably going to let him go this time by. Yeah, there you can see the bright orange machine is the Laughing Clown's car, and the black and white is the number 55 of Matrix Bronze. He's gaining, and yeah, there he's finally going to let him go. So what for a brief while was actually a 4-second loss between P1 and P2, looks like it's going to shake out to, something about a 1.5 to 2 second loss.
Yeah, I think that's what it's eventually going to shake out to be there for them. But they'll certainly know that they've got the ability to close in. They've got the chance to be able to do it here at this point. And that's going to put a lot of chutzpah into the drivers of that Matrix Bronze machine, Matthew Siddall in particular. They're going to know that they've got the speed to close down on Hydro Race JRT, and they're just going to be pushing all the more now.
Yeah, that last lap for the 62 was 2 minutes and 9 seconds. Remember, the regular pace is in the 205, 206s. That was just monstrous for them. 208.5 for Matrix Bronze and Matthew Siddall. Back on board with Owens once again, a little closer than we saw last time to the 08 machine. Let's see if he is going to be able to take this second place in the GT4 AM category. Haven't really, given them a whole lot of love here, but this is for podium spots.
Yes, it is. A nice little battle starting to shake itself out. 2 silver cars making our job here as commentators a little bit difficult, but nevertheless, we'll be able to keep our eyes right now. Going down into the corner, we take a look out the back of Evers' car right now in that 208 GT4 Racing Green team. Maybe a little bit of a move here for Gone Broke, at least thinking about it going down into Hell Corner. Not going to happen. They're going to get out of the throttle a little bit early. Watch maybe for the draft here to come into play, although it didn't look like Gone Broke got quite the run off the line they needed.
Back and forth, gently trying to shake him off. And so far, has not been able to really do it, as Owens is still pulling on him up the straight. GT4 cars, but it's up to 140 miles an hour by the time they hit the brakes. Oh, Chris Pippin for Three Stooges Racing. That's not the way you're supposed to be looking.
No, it is not, and I have to imagine that's going to be from running a little bit wide off of Hell Corner. Let's watch the replay here right now for Chris. Let's see as they go down into the corner. Yep, just runs a little bit wide, clips the grass, and that's going to spin him right around.
And you called it. Just unfortunately a little too hot into there. He'll go down to 9th place because of that one, a ways behind. It is massively separated at the back of the GT4 field. It's 56 seconds from the Three Stooges Racing car up to Point Break in P8. In fact, just behind him, this is the Dreadnought Racing car, who is doing his duty to not cause an incident through one of the more narrow parts, and eventually finds his way by, coming past the various parks.
Yep, there he's going to be able to work his way out and around right now. Just coming up over Skyline and the Dipper. Again, this has been such a tricky place on the track. We've seen so many drivers get it wrong through there, but looks like it's about perfect handling for him here, Joe. He's going to bring the car down now into Forest Elbow, try to get a good run off the corner, keep everything together here at this point.
Down the Conrad once again. We head back to that battle for fourth in the GT4s, but second in the AM category with Matt Owens giving us a nice perspective with the helmet cam. Heading towards the braking zone here. One thing I do love about iRacing, it's been around for quite some time now, but the fact that just like in real life, the cars do see a lot of dirt and grime buildup, and that's including on the windscreen, that you have to wait until the pit stop to get that cleared off. It's especially noticeable in these endurance races.
Yeah, it really, really is. And let's not forget just how really beautiful they kind of look when they come off of the track. You get all that marble buildup on the front of the car. It looks like they've been through the wars. And I absolutely love to be able to take a look at it. Amazing modeling here done by iRacing. So we take a look now on board your leader in the GT4 Pro-Am category. Ian Simon leading the way right now, has a very healthy gap of about 46 seconds back to Matrix Orange behind him, doing a great job of just holding on to that advantage.
Yeah, he's about to lap fourth place in his own class. That is unbelievable here. This has been phenomenal pace from Ian Simon and the Simrat Racing team. Rattray was the one in the car a little bit earlier, so it was a little more difficult to try and overtake a car that's within your own class and put them a lap down. And these two battling for position also adds an extra complication into it.
Yeah, it certainly does. And so I really think here, with all of that Simrat Racing has and Ian Simon behind the wheel, I wouldn't be surprised if we just kind of watch him loiter behind this battle a little bit and wait for a perfect opportunity to make the overtake, not wanting to necessarily get in the way of this battle. He's going to recognize what it is. He's going to recognize what's going to be happening, and he's not going to be pushing too hard to try to get anything forward.
All right, we've given 10 minutes. It's time for the answer, and we do have a correct one for our second question. Slatnam called it in the chat. It was a tree that fell across the track, of all things, that they had to clear and stop the race for back in 2010. So for all you sim racing arborists, there's your answer. Again, SixSigmaSimRacing.com for special deals. But if you're Slatnam, definitely get in contact and email Ryan at podiumesports.com to claim your prize. And make sure and use our code PCA15 for 15% off at SixSigmaSimRacing.com. That is only available during the race itself, so you can't wait forever. You've got an hour and 18 minutes to take advantage of it. Up the mountain straight once again, and still he's just hovering behind Matt Owens is Ian Simon. Now he's going to show his nose, and I was going to say I thought Simon was going to just let him through, but he certainly didn't make it super easy. He eventually allows that 22 by.
Yeah, eventually lets him on by, and just some good communication there, I think, among the drivers to make sure they knew exactly what was going to be happening to be able to let that car on by. But now the big problem here is going to be that's going to split up the battle now, and it's going to be losing a lot of time here for Gone Broke Racing, at least until Simrat is able to get their way on by that 208 Racing Team Green.
Yeah, puts them a little farther apart than I'm sure that Owens would want. But this could also hold up Evers here. It all depends on if he gives a little bit too much away once he's overtaken by Ian Simon, or if they can try and coordinate that pass maybe a little bit better than what Owens saw in his case. Meanwhile, the battle for second in the GT3s is also going to get split up with Code Red, who we saw have an incident earlier on, causing a big checkup for Chris. The Eureka car was within about 0.3 of a second. It's already now 2.5 seconds.
Yeah, it is just coming down by massive, massive chunks here for Matrix Bronze, and for all of them as their Eureka works their way on by, continuing to lose time, though. That is not going to be good. Eureka, I think, is going to be more than a little bit upset about that.
Well, we've seen it change back and forth. It yo-yos a ton with the traffic here, so I wouldn't be shocked if they're going to get a better opportunity. But what happened to Jesse Lyon, who currently is in fourth? This is the next car back. coming up into Griffin's Bend. Oh, and around it goes. Just a little bit of a touch to the outside. Thankfully, looks like it shouldn't have caused too much damage. And did he get enough time? Yeah, got plenty of clearing to get it pointed the right way. So unfortunately for Jesse, it's now up to 24 seconds behind Eureka.
And that is almost a little bit of a surprising incident, Joe. Normally out of these Porsches, we tend to see a little bit of a lazier, slower spin, not that violent of a loss of rear traction. You'd frankly expect that more out of some of the other GT3s on the sim here at this point. So I wonder if that was a little bit of a situation where he was trying to trail brake a little bit too hard down into the corner, and the rear end just kind of let go on him, and maybe the rear's locked up a little bit. That seems to be the only real logical explanation I can give as to exactly what caused that incident.
We've been watching Bob Rose. This is a chase for 12th. Remember, they had a penalty earlier on, and because of that, they're not in the mid-pack. Instead, they're fighting with Aaron Nations for one of the last places on the field as they come out of Murray's corner. So Marble Motors has been basically on the recovery, and they've at least got one car, but it's another 43 seconds up to the next one after the Three Amigos machine. If he managed to overtake him, it'll be a 208 GT3 with Randall Ayers, and Derek Cyphers, the latest victim of the mountain. And in fact, having to do a real Austin Powers here. Oh, watch out for the car coming, and okay, he'll get it going in time.
Lucky to be able to do that. And again, a little bit of a strange area. Let's check out the replay here. That's farther down the circuit than I would expect for a loss of traction necessarily, unless he had a little bit of a bad run in here with the GT4. Oh!
Wow. Could we see that one from above? I didn't see what got that other car loose. It could have been the curb. Interesting stuff there. Oh, tried to go around, and unfortunately the gap closed, and by the time it closed, there was the wall.
Yeah, and I think there's just a little bit of a patch of grass there on driver's left on circuit, and I think he caught that as well, and that may have been what caught him there. Ooh, that was another violent snap of oversteer there in that car. Very lucky that all drivers were able to walk away from that.
And I mean, I don't think the GT4 car did anything wrong in that situation. He was sticking to his racing line. The other guy just kind of was trying to go for a gap that wasn't there, unfortunately. Back to Bob Rose, though. He's once again threatening on Aaron Nations as they look for the overtake. It's down side by side up towards the chase. Going to be on the outside into this corner, though. But look at that coming into the little kink. Looks like the 996 is going to be through.
Yes, it is. So Marble Motors moved them up into 11th place overall in that GT3 category. Got a little bit of lap traffic that they've got to deal with going around them. That's Gary Rice in the second place car in the GT4 class for Breaking Bad Racing. They're able to get around. Here comes a fight back, though, Joe.
He wanted it back, but he wasn't quite there. A little bit off the apex. Bob Rose left some space just in case Nations was chucking that one down. But no, it's going to be 11th place now for Marble Motors with a huge chunk of racetrack to make up to catch up to P10. Just try and claim a top 10. Remember, there is a championship over the course of the year for these special events, these endurance events that they are holding. So there's more than just one position to be gained and that little bit of ego boost. There's also points on the line here.
Yeah, there certainly are, and I think that's going to start to play into drivers' minds a little bit as we only have this and another round left to go. We're going to see these drivers start to think about those championship points, maybe not being nearly as aggressive as they would have been, maybe trying to hold things back a little bit in order to make their way up in the championship. That always adds a real wrinkle rather than just doing a one-off event.
Matt Owens versus Joseph Evers. This has been stuck in a stalemate for some time. Let's see if it finally starts to switch up a little bit here soon. But they've been just right next to one another, about 0.3 of a second apart for a number of laps now. And I'm getting information that Chris Pies was given a black flag. That, was that our... Now, Hydra Race isn't leading. What happened to Schum? And that's the 28 that got the black flag. That's Imperial Motorsports Magic Man. And they are in pit lane. And that was for the track blockage, apparently. So they were involved in the incident that we just saw in the replay there. So that's why they're getting that one. Unfortunately, I don't see anybody in the car. That doesn't mean that they're done necessarily, but it does set them back significantly if they're having to sit and wait that patiently for the repairs to finish. And it does look like the Laughing Clown car is also having to wait quite a bit here because he's arrived at the back of Owens and Evers.
Yeah, he's at the back here, so he's going to have to hold up. I'd imagine him to be able to get this pass going down the Conrad straight relatively easily. But yeah, Joe, to your point about Hydra Race, not entirely sure where they lost the lead. And they not only lost the lead, they lost 2 positions there. So a little bit strange to see them falling back down through the order.
Should give a nice, easy chance for the Laughing Clown car to go through. And, okay, so Schum is no longer in the lead. What caused it? Whoa!
That'd do it.
Wow. Thing is, was that... No, that wasn't the Eureka team with them. I think that was, okay, that was a different lapped car. I think that they were with that other GT3 in the red and white that we saw. Wouldn't have thought that would cost them enough time to lose the lead, but I guess it did. And it's put them into third, about 5 seconds behind Eureka. That means that Matrix Bronze, in the pass they made for second, has now actually put them in the lead.
Yeah, a great heads-up move for them, and it goes to show you, never quit until it's all said and done here for these drivers. Matthew Siddall riding pretty right now with only about an hour and 10 minutes left to go in this race. That is very, very good stuff for that number 55 machine.
When it's an hour and 10 minutes to go, that means that it's only an hour and 10 minutes left for a special deal that you can get. Six Sigma Sim Racing, who is the official sponsor of today's Bathurst 3 Hour, is putting up a special deal to use the promo code you see on your screen now to get 15% off anything. That's everything on their store online. 15% off at sixsigmasimracing.com. So go and check that out. But you only have an hour and, well, now not 10 minutes, hour and 8 minutes left to go. Time's running out. As soon as the race is over, that deal is gone.
Go ahead and jump on that. Just about everything you can imagine for a sim racing rig or system. Everything from gloves to chassis to seat to peripheries, anything like that. It's a really, really great deal. Highly encourage everybody to go check that out. As we continue to watch here, about an hour and 8 minutes now left to go in this race. Imperial Motorsports Magic Man still down in pit lane. Let's take a look here. Jacob Schum maybe finding himself in a little bit more trouble. Big slowdown coming down through Skyline. Doesn't look like he has too much of a... Whoa!
And again, somehow, miraculously, we escape a major incident. Mark Lacombe, who was trying to catch up to a couple cars in the GT4 class, but now has given up a lot of time there. Had to wait very, very patiently before he could get it turned around. He's doing a very good job of, like, trying to keep it off to the side as much as possible and open up the chance to turn it around here.
Yeah, it does a good job and a good heads up to be able to try to block the track as minimally as possible. Just keeps out of the way, and now he's going to be able to bring himself back around and see himself getting back out on to the running here. Obviously far down in the order after that, but still, if you're able to keep running here at Bathurst, that will be very, very beneficial for you.
Well, it's about minimizing those mistakes. It's about not losing time. It's about staying out of trouble here all the way for the full 3 hours of this race. And it seems a few have had quite a bit of struggles to do so here today. But seems like Ian Simon and Robert Rattray have not had such troubles. They've been leading by massive amounts. And am I seeing right there a full lap ahead? No, excuse me. They're not a full lap ahead of second place. That's the lap up to the next car that I'm looking at. But Breaking Bad Racing is more than a minute behind at this stage.
That is just so remarkable there for them. It really and truly is a real testament here to the ferocity up at the front of that GT4 field from Simrat Racing. Very, very good running there for them. I think they are going to be able to walk away from this with their heads held very high. It's Matt Owens there, you see, getting out of the way for Gone Broke Racing, coming up and over Skyline, letting them on through.
Oh, and something that we missed here was that that Matrix Orange car was our GT Am leader at the time, GT4 Am. That means that I believe Gone Broke Racing is our new Am leader. If let me double check on that. Yes, it is. Matt Owens there. It is right there with not that big of a lead, frankly, because Joseph Evers, we were watching these two battling earlier, suddenly find themselves in a battle for the class win.
And the plot thickens here at this point as things continue to develop along as they go. Yeah, this is a pretty close little battle here that we keep our eyes on. And again, with just over an hour left to go in this race, I think it's full go time for these drivers. They can't sit around and wait.
That's the 208 GT3 racing car. They were very slow. And, oh, they had a big hit into the wall at the chase. You can see the damage on the car. They were trying to go side by side through the kink with a GT4 car. I wonder if there was just a little bit of lift on the throttle and that unsettled it. Look at it, snap on him.
Oh, another big snap for them. Man, these cars are just absolutely dancing across the track here today. I'm very surprised.
Well, it is 109 Fahrenheit on the track surface now. It's continued to rise. It's gone up 30 degrees Fahrenheit, more than that actually, close to 40 degrees Fahrenheit since we started this race early in the morning with the sun beating down. So it's clearly caused the track to be a little bit more slippery. We've seen a number of spins, and drivers might be better set up for those colder, grippier conditions.
Yeah, very well could be. And remember, the track temperatures are going to fall a little bit as we continue on here in this final hour. We are just past 1 o'clock virtual standard time, so it's still plenty of time here to be able to move their way along. We're going to take a look at a replay here. This is David Boyer coming down into the chase. And this doesn't have exactly the greatest look to it. Catches it out wide. Oh, and collects the GT3.
And was that Eureka? No, that's Shake and Bake.
Okay.
So they got shoved off course. It looks like they got away with minimal damage, but that was or is our AM leader. Let me double check if that is still the lead for the GT3 AM. That is still the GT3 AM leader, so they got away lucky.
Got away very, very lucky with that. They'll have to really, I think, scrap to try to get themselves back into good position. Although at this point, they do have a pretty big gap to Steve Comats for the Laughing Clown behind them, and Bob Warren for Dreadnought Racing, about 27 seconds. And I just saw coming across the incident report here that Charlie Boyer was black flagged for that incident, Joe.
I'm not too surprised. That probably didn't sit well with race control. And he's going to have to go in and serve that within 3 laps, or else he will be DQ'd. Trying to see if we've lost any others other than Werstrennen, because Imperial Motorsports Magic Man is still in pit lane, but they could still return to the track. They've been in there for, gosh, probably about 20 minutes now. And the same thing with the 208 team, who we saw come in not too long ago, who might be able to return. Thomas Briggs was the last to jump out of the car, but we haven't seen anybody else get into it recently. In the meantime, Matrix Bronze continues to plug away at the front. Eureka has lost touch with them pretty significantly, considering they were overtaken not all that long ago. Siborowski is 7.7 seconds off P1 now.
That is a very, very large gap to try to close back in. But again, an hour around the mountain, just about anything can happen. We've seen how many little incidents and accidents can befall these drivers if they're not careful. If I was behind the wheel of that Eureka car here at this point, Joe, I would just be soldiering on, pushing ahead, doing everything I can do to try to close that gap and hope that a little bit of misfortune falls the way of our Matrix Bronze leaders.
Yeah, they've got this one looking pretty good, but we've seen big gaps come down before due to incidents, and we've seen drivers and teams that have looked very solid suddenly make unexpected errors. So they still have to really focus for the remainder of this one. Ian Simon really has the biggest gap of any of the class leaders at this point. At a minute 15 is what I'm seeing as the gap now back to Breaking Bad Racing, and Matt Owens leading in the GT4 AM category currently with actually what's looking like a little bit of a better gap back to Joseph Evers. It's up to 4 seconds between them currently, so that's actually gone a much better way for that 09 in the last few minutes to get themselves out of trouble and out of range from threats. Meanwhile, we watched it all. Who is going to put a lap on Millerano? That's the shake and bake car we saw have an incident with Boyer not too long ago. This is going to take us to the 1 hour mark. Before we get to the pit stops, we're going to step away for just a moment, but you won't lose your pictures because we are going to watch and listen to the beautiful sounds of Porsche GT3 and GT4 machinery. Welcome back to Mount Panorama Circuit. We're into the final hour of the Bathurst 3-hour here for PCA Sim Racing. And right now, Matrix Bronze leads. They just had their pit stop right as we went away. And it is now Jordan Dyer who is in that car, leading the GT3 Pro-Am category. As for the Am category in the GT3 cars, it is currently shake and bake with Nick Melorano in that machine, but he still needs to make his pit stop. We'll see if he hands that one over. He has shared that with Scott Kessel so far. What about the GT4s, DJ?
Well, up at the front of that GT4 field, it continues to be Simrat Racing, absolutely dominant up at the front of the field, holding on a truly massive advantage with Ian Simon behind the wheel of that car, doing a fantastic job to keep everything pointed in that right direction. Then back in the Pro-Am category, it is Matt Owens for Gone Broke Racing, leading the way. They're P3 overall in class, and they've got about 8.5 seconds or so in change over Mark Lacombe and Matrix Orange Red, who are second in class.
So we hop on board with Derek Cyphers, third currently in the GT3 Pros, the 26 car, exactly where he started, interestingly. And Cyphers has taken over from Mark Nistor during his stint. He also still needs pit stop, expecting many of them to start coming in soon, and there you go. Right there, the 26 car heads into pit lane. So weaves his way through the chicane and down to the cones to try and make sure that he gets to the pit speed limit. So under 1 hour left. Hope you got your anchor ready to make a last charge.
Yeah, you're really going to have to put it on here at this point, and this is where we're going to have to start looking at these gaps, figuring out exactly how everything's going to play for everybody. Dave Schwartz is going to be one of those drivers that I'm going to have my eye on here. He's been able to bring the gap down a little bit to Jordan Dyer up ahead of him, and now that gap sits in about 2 seconds. It may be Schwartz's time to shine.
By the way, we've also had a pit stop for the former leader, the 62 team. Travis Brody has hopped in. Drawhorn and Schum have shared the seat with him so far today. So does Brody have the pace to try and make up for the couple of problems we've already seen for that purple car as we continue to watch this? Oh, big moment up at the top of the hill. And this could be a big accident if we don't give people getting a heads up here. That's Gary Reese. And I think, was that second in GT4 Pro?
Well, I think it was also second in the GT3 category. I think that was Eureka that got caught up in that.
You're right. That was indeed Dave Schwartz, who's taken back over. Both of them getting a big hit with the wall there. What kind of damage is out of it, and will we see a penalty handed out?
I've got to think we might, as that was a pretty clear fade to the outside from that GT4 machine as they came their way on in. I think that's a little bit of a problem there, and I would not be surprised if we see race control being a little bit aggressive with that.
And then David Kaufman, I believe, comes along the incident, and does he get involved? Looks like that car is already going. So this must have been sort of a separate thing, maybe. He seems okay here. That looks like he was good in the end, but they did come quite close there because of that little incident. And Breaking Bad Racing is still in second, amazingly, but let's see, is the car able to keep going? Because they're just coming past pit lane. Oh, they're going to keep going despite lacking the rear wing.
I mean, it might help them out a little bit going down the straightaways, a little bit of less drag on the car, but I'd still say that wouldn't be the best idea in the world there for them. I would come down into pit lane, and that would be what I would be looking at doing as we watch Travis Brody working his way on by them. But, yeah, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, so Brody, who is trying to make up for Jacob Schum's couple of errors, has about 51 minutes to try and catch up, 18 seconds to the Eureka team. All three of our current podium have had their final stops and should be able to go to the end.
Yeah, everybody coming on in at this point, everybody having served it. It looks like the last drivers to really do that. I see 3 Amigos down into pit lane here at this point. Not sure if that's damage related or if that is pit stops here now, but 51 minutes left to go. We've said these drivers are able to make about anywhere between 55 to 65 minutes on a tank, so they should be okay to the end.
Watching with a helmet cam with Travis Brody to really show you how tight it is trying to work your way through this track. I remember the first time I saw onboards of this place, I couldn't believe that this existed. Because this is just, I mean, when you see the speeds that they run through here, it's just jaw-dropping to think that real people actually send the GT3 class cars like these through here at these speeds.
Yeah, it's really, really remarkable that they do. It never fails to amaze me and never fails to absolutely throw me for surprise, Joe. Ooh, that's an off track in front of Charlie Boyer there. Ooh, thankfully able to get out of the way, but barely able to move their way through.
That was Chris Pippen, and that was for position. Pippen with a little bit of an off through Hell Corner and hands it over with ease to the 93. The Three Stooges cars actually up 4 from where they began this race, so not doing too bad despite that loss down there in the midst of the GT4s. But this is our leader, Jordan Dyer in the Matrix Bronze. Siddall was in the car for the first 2/3 of the race, and now Dyer looks to get in to try and close things out. Schwartz in the 775 has 3.5 seconds to make up to catch him. Not impossible, but as we've seen, Matrix Bronze has had some pretty good pace at this stage of the race, and especially now that Eureka has run into trouble, we don't know if they've got a penalty hanging over their head or if they're experiencing some damage.
Yeah, we're not entirely sure there what the situation is for Eureka. The good news is they have plenty of time back to Hydro Race JRT, who sits about 18 seconds behind them, but that 3-second gap, it was down at about 2.52 seconds. It's now raising up a little bit more at this point, hovering more around the 3-second mark.
A little bit of a blink for Dyer, but I don't think that's anything to be too worried about for now, as he goes on by Chris Pippen as well. Less than 50 minutes left to go now. And for Matrix Bronze, it's not guaranteed, but they've been looking pretty handy here in this one. And unfortunately for Hydro Race, they've not been quite as competitive as we saw early on. It looked like they might have to settle for 3rd despite really dominating the first part of this race. As they come down into the braking of Murray's Corner, Eureka has cut this down to 1.6 seconds. It was a very good lap in traffic for that 775 versus Matrix.
Yeah, very good lap indeed as they continue to try to gain in a little bit more time here. A little bit of draft up in front of them, a little bit of draft behind. That's going to help them to get a little bit of good running. Even if that's a lapped car there, Joe, that'll still be a good chance to be able to help them, even if it's a GT4 car. But obviously that car that you saw directly on front in front of the screen, only 2.2 seconds up the road. That was Matrix Bronze. That is the battle for the lead.
Coming up into the mountain once again as he cuts through the cutting appropriately and then heads up into Quarry, hoping to try and narrow down the distance between himself and the 55. They've been playing this cat and mouse game, and Eureka was already passed by Matrix Bronze once, but it was different drivers in both cars at that stage. As things changed enough that Eureka can try and run them back down and manage to get by, or is this the best they can do? It's back to 1.8 seconds. It was over 2 just a moment ago. But again, this could be just a bit of a back and a forth between the pace between them over the top of the hill out of Forest Elbow. It was definitely a little better for Matrix Bronze off the corner.
Yeah, a little bit better. They're going to be able to hold on to that advantage here at this point as now they run on the run here down the Conrad Straight, going down into the cutting. Gap holding true. It's tickling down a little bit, under about 2 seconds here at this point, so still plenty of good time here for them. Let's see what they're able to do. We're right on board with James Huth right now for last 10th racing. This is a little bit of a battle with Dre GT up right ahead.
Yep, this is for a top 5 in the GT3s, but I have a big development from the stewards. Dave Schwartz was given a black flag for that run-in with the GT4 car. So what was looking like it could have been a big run for the 775 for the victory, looks like it might be slipping away, because this is going to cost them a good 20 to 30 seconds just having to trundle through the pit lane. And actually, I think Hydro Race is going to be able to overtake them because of it. So things really changing around. And in fact, speaking of changing around, James Huth really would like to go by Scott Durham. Durham tries his best to fight it, but powering around the outside, James Huth gets P5.
That is an aggressive move there from him, absolutely putting it on the line, and kudos to Huth for trying to be able to make that move work. Last 10th moved them up into 5th place.
Update on Eureka versus Hydro Race. Eureka did not lose that 2nd place, but it is now much closer between 2nd and 3rd, as Travis Brody has cut it down to 1.1 seconds. There you can see them on screen. Purple car is Hydro Race, the red and white is Eureka.
All right, game on for these drivers. A couple of GT4s in the way. Chris Pippen right now trying to, Travis Brody trying to navigate and be able to get his way on and through right now. That's going to slow him up massively here at this point, and that's not going to be the best news. That gap already expanding up to about 3 seconds.
Wonder if that 775 is still experiencing a little bit of the damage, if he still has the straight line speed he needs. Because right now the gap that he's putting on Hydro Race is going to be quite useful. But unfortunately, it looks like, let's see, they start to pick up pace. Yes, okay, Travis Brody now going to be able to fully get through. And as they start to pick up the pace, let's see what it is at once we reach the kink for Dave Schwartz. Up to 165, 66 miles an hour. And that's about the same for Travis Brody, 166. So a sigh of relief for the fans of the Eureka team that it seems like their straight line speed hasn't been too badly affected, but they're back into pit lane. Why are they back into pit lane?
I'm not sure here, Joe. Maybe they sped on pit exit? I don't know the reason why they'd be back down in. They already served it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it must have been, because I see a black flag for them, and that was not served. I'm pretty sure that was not given by the human stewards. That was given by the sim. And it's a stop and go. Yes, okay, if it's a stop and go, I'm pretty certain that is indeed a speeding penalty. It just compounds for the 775. They eventually are allowed to get going after just roughly 12 seconds, but now Hydro Race is off in the distance.
Oh, you absolutely hate that here for Eureka. They were such a great run. They had such a great run up to this point, continuing to push their way along, and then just penalties coming back to scupper them. Absolutely heartbreaking if you're behind the wheel of that 775 machine.
Yeah, I feel for them. I mean, they were running a pretty good race up until they had that incident, and just goes to show in endurance racing, it's the smallest things that can make the biggest difference out here. But if you want a small thing that can make a big difference, it's always probably to do with the budgets. And you can get 15% off all Six Sigma Sim Racing gear if you head over to their website, sixsigmasimracing.com, and use this special code PCA15 and get 15% off. That's anything on the site. All of their sim racing gear is 15% off with this code, but you only have that opportunity for 41 more minutes, so make sure and use it soon or else it is gone. Again, big thank you to Six Sigma Sim Racing for sponsoring this event and this great opportunity for fans to try and get a good deal out there today. Meanwhile, as we fly onto the mountain straight. Jordan Dyer has now had this race relax tremendously. His main rival is suddenly gone. Hydro Race looks like their pace has dissipated, and the 55 has a 25-second lead with 40 minutes to go.
Yeah, it's all pretty comfortable for him here at this point. And they're, as you said, Joe, going to be breathing a lot easier, I think, now that they have been able to find themselves into this position. And it's now just a matter about traffic management and trying to make sure that you're not going to have any problems out on track. Keep everything calm, cool, and collected. Keep it together. Don't make a mistake for the final last couple of laps here. I know that's easier said than done, but that's just what you got to do.
Yeah. It is always easier said than done when it comes to Bathurst. It's a difficult one, no matter which way you spin it. But in spite of this leader, we do still have a battle farther down, with George Poulos having taken over for Steve Komatz in the Laughing Clown car. He's chasing Robert Walton in the Three Amigos machine for a top 10. These two cars were fighting earlier, but somehow the Three Amigos car has gotten back around.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how they were able to do that. I kind of missed that off air, but certainly a good run here for them. They're going to be trying to gain their way up forward. And there you see getting out of the way there of Sean Murphy in that slower GT4 car. They're just going to keep working and keep trying to put pressure to the back here of that number 3 machine up in front of them and hope they can force a little bit of an error. That's going to be their easiest way to get on by.
I looked down to see about what's happened with some of our drivers that were taking repairs. Impura Motorsports Magic Man is back out there, but they are 7 laps down from the leader. It's quite a long time for them to get back out onto it. And Code Red returns to the track with Mark Frost currently in that car. They are 4 laps down from the leader. There's definitely been a few that have had their fair share of issues. Did we get another one? No, this is Dreadnought. Keeps confusing me because it's very similarly painted to Eureka, and they unfortunately had a little bit of an off, but thankfully no major drama for them, just kind of doing some mowing down under before they can get back onto the black racing surface.
Yeah, and they're able to get their way back around here, and that's just a little bit of a result as some of the exhaustion really starts to lay in for these drivers. Remember, we're talking about some pretty significant, difficult race running here, not just physically and having to be able to get themselves on the wheel and fighting against that, but also having to just be racing around here where it requires your utmost attention for 3 hours or however long your stint is. That's no easy feat, Joe.
Back to Poulo, still on the hunt with Robert Walton. Not close enough here up the mountain straight. They stay roughly half a second apart, and the good passing opportunities dissipate as soon as they hit Griffin's Bend. So for now, probably going to be a line astern between the pair of them. And is this actually the battle for P2 and GT3 AM? Am I seeing that correctly?
I believe you are correct there, Joe. That is Three Amigos and Laughing Clown, yeah.
A little bit farther down than what we had seen earlier. The AM category was really doing phenomenal here today, with many of them running pretty high up the order, but it seems like many of them have fallen by the wayside, and the cream has risen to the top between the pros and the AMs. So yes, this is a little ways down the order now, but this is pretty far up the order if you're looking at the AM victory. Whoa, that was deep from Poulos, just about getting into the back, and he hits the wall a little bit as Eureka tries to lap them, and in the process has to take a big evasive maneuver.
Yeah, big evasive maneuver there, and that's the kind of stuff that's going to come back to bite you here in the latter stages of this race. You've got to watch out for it. It can come back and catch you out all kinds of hard if you're not careful.
Glad that did not wind up with a bigger wreck. So Poulos unfortunately losing touch with Three Amigos there, and I wonder how badly the car is hurt by slapping that right-hand side. The good news is, in the last couple of builds, iRacing's definitely done some work on that new damage model, and it has made the cars a little bit sturdier here in the GT3 class. So they can take those lickings and keep on ticking their way around the track a little bit, but you still don't want to do that too much. So next car for them to lap, Eureka tries to go by the Three Amigos, and they get a nice little gap here along the mountain straight.
Yeah, it's going to spread things out a little bit more, as that GT3 car obviously is going to certainly slow things down a little bit in this battle. But I think this is going to be the one to watch out for. This is going to be raging on here through the majority of the end of this race. We're going to have to not take our eyes off of it, because I think this could get very fun.
Absolutely. And there we see some more of the GT4 traffic, just making things a little bit difficult for some of our GT3 cars. Walton, you could see checked up there. That was because ahead of them, we've got a blinker. That is Chris Costas in Backmarker Motorsports. I think he was afraid of where that car was going to reappear.
Yeah, I think he was as well. And Joe, that is one of the most terrifying things you can come across if you are a driver, is one of those cars that's just blinking in front of you and you really don't know what it's going to do. It is utterly terrifying to see that and to just try to figure it out, especially it's such a narrow track here like Bathurst.
I gotta remember that this is sim racing, and unlike real racing, the internet connection does have an effect. That's what causes that blinking. So it can be a little bit of an issue, considering it can cause those miscommunications. As we come down Conrad, now they are able to clear him. But Poulos regathered a lot of time due to him just playing it safe there. Probably was still the best decision, I think, that Walton could have made in that situation.
Oh, for sure. I think you would have much rather been a little bit safe and get yourself to the end of the race. But it looks like Laughing Clown here starting to take a little bit of a look down into the inside. They're not going to go for it there, but certainly thinking about it, maybe just trying to put a little bit of a pressure to the back of those drivers in front and see if they are able to make get a mistake here out of Walton.
Certainly doing what he needs to do here, just hovering around the rear bumper of that number 3, making sure to make him sweat, see if he can elicit a mistake somewhere along a track that often gets mistakes out of drivers, and they're usually costly. But he's not close enough into Griffin's Bend here on lap 67. Both these cars are 2 laps down from the leaders. The length of this race has really taken its toll on a number of our cars, and they have spread out significantly.
Yeah, they really have. We're seeing pretty big gaps, upwards of a second throughout the entire field here at this point. And this is our closest battle between Three Amigos and Laughing Clown right now as we close down on the 30-minute to go mark. Not a lot of time left, but this is certainly where where the action is as of right now.
No, the one team that I feel like is really putting on an incredible display is Simrat Racing. I've already mentioned they had a huge gap. Well, that gap has now become a full lap ahead of Breaking Bad. I assume because of some of the issues that they have had. And Sean Murphy has since hopped into the car for Gary Reese to wrap it up. And Rattray is basically pretty safe here for the win if he can just keep it between the walls. Meanwhile, for Laughing Clown versus Three Amigos, we'll see who has the last laugh as they come into the chase. Very good under brakes once again. We've been seeing that a couple times from George, where he waits till very late to get the car slowed up.
Yeah, certainly does, and that can certainly be a good strategy here to dive on the brakes like that, but I'd be a little bit fearful of losing time on corner exit by doing that, Joe. You're going to find yourself that you're just going to lose that little bit of a run coming off of the corner, and that can really come back to bite if you're not careful.
Oh, way wide off the course goes Poulos, and he's into the wall. We've seen that a couple times already today. Clipping the grass coming out of Hell Corner will spit you out off into the concrete. He's going to have a few cars coming upon him here, but should have enough space to be able to return to the track safely, and he does. Well, there goes that battle, and Robert Walton can now rest a little bit easier. Let's watch from above.
I think this is just the same thing that we've seen multiple times. Pushes a little bit too far on the exit of the corner, catches that curb, catches that grass, and that is just enough to be able to send him around and out and into that outside wall.
Car is back going, thankfully, but don't know how much damage that he took from that. Haven't seen anybody in lately from some of these wrecks. In fact, the most recent car to visit pit lane from our GT3s has been the Eureka team for serving their 2 black flag penalties for separate incidents. And everybody else has been out for at least 8 laps or more here at this stage. But with 30 minutes left to go, we have one last chance to win a set of racing gloves. This is the last set that Six Sigma Sim Racing is going to be giving away. Answer our trivia question correctly in the chat, and you will earn those free racing gloves. So, our question for the last time: before becoming known as the Bathurst 12 Hour, the event had a varied history that included even being held on a track that wasn't Bathurst. Where did the 12-hour race happen in 1995?
You know, Joe, the other ones I knew the answer to. That one I did not. So we will have to see if anybody's got a little bit smarter of a brain than I do and see if they're able to get the correct answer. Again, put that in there. Win yourself a great pair of racing gloves from Six Sigma Sim Racing.
Indeed, down into the chase as Fullwood allows Finch to go by. That was for position. That was for 8th place. Dreadnought Racing has had a few problems here and there and is kind of trying to recover, but they are up 3 from where they began with that move just now. Question is, can they get far enough away that they're not going to be repassed up the mountain straight? Definitely having to give some space to Costas there. And Fullwood, ooh, he's right on top of him. He could have a chance if he wants to be a pain.
Yeah, he certainly could. He's going to be looking down to the inside here at this point, trying to see what he is able to get. He's going to be tucking behind in the draft. Let's see if he's able to get this to go. No, he's going to back off here.
Awful close, though. This has got to be uncomfortable for Finch. He took over for Bob Moore. Oh, in fact, he's going to let him through. Big lift there.
I'm a little bit surprised by that, Joe. I would not have expected to see this here today. Some lifts here today, but I wouldn't have expected to see lifts this late on in the race. I would have thought you would be battling tooth and nail and trying to fight for everything you've got.
Yeah, the last 6th of the race, essentially. It's this is the time to really push and try and hold on to what positions you can. But I guess that's not as big of a concern for Dreadnought. They just want to get to the end on this one as we plunge down into Forest Elbow once more and come out onto Conrad for Fullwoods. His next goal is, wow, a minute up the road. My goodness, Shake and Bake is currently leading the AM category. Marble Motors a pro, so if they don't want to worry about something outside of class within their GT3s, then they don't have to be concerned. But if they want 7th place, they're going to need some tremendous pace to cut down that much in what's only going to be about 14 laps.
Yeah, it's really not that much time here, Joe. They are going to have to push their way as much as they can. Big gaps here over the course of this field as they continue to run. Looking down through the order, Robert Ratch right here leading in that GT3 or GT4 rather category. This to me is the drive of the race. Simrat Racing 22, the number 22 machine. They have got nearly a lap over the cars behind them. It is absolutely remarkable just the gap they have only been able to get out, and they only have 1 incident point over the course of this entire running.
Yeah, super clean stuff. In fact, the leader in GT3 is also on 0. That's the Matrix Bronze car with Jordan Dyer in there. Ian Simon, excuse me, that was the other leader. Matthew Siddall was the one that we've seen Jordan share the car with so far today. The two of them have been quite literally spotless, and that's what you need to try and win a race here at Bathurst. You think about those behind them. Hydro Race, they had an off. They had to check up for a car that was slow. Eureka, they had multiple incidents and black flags. The Wonder Bread car, the 26, got caught up also behind a car. So all those behind the leader seem to be there, not strictly because of pace, but because it's about managing the race itself.
Well, that is what it is like to run here at Bathurst. You have just got to keep yourself clean as much as possible. It's what we have harped on over the course of the entirety of this race. Stay clean, stay consistent, do not make any silly mistakes. And the drivers that you're seeing up at the front of the field, they are the ones that have been able to do exactly that. We take a look at a replay here. This is Kevin Yokel in the GT4 machine coming down the Conrad Straight. I'm not entirely sure what happened here, but we're about to find out.
He's already very slow because that's other GT4 cars going by him. I wonder if something happened earlier, but we'll watch, see if maybe there was a secondary incident here coming down into the chase. So far, so good. Okay, so we backed it up just a little bit to see if there was something else that happened further up. It did look like the car was crabbing a little bit, like it was slightly off. So I wonder.
Yeah, I wonder if this is an issue maybe coming down through Forest Elbow. Let's take a look. No?
That was clean.
Yeah.
Well, it might have to remain a mystery. Well, okay, we've gone a little bit farther back. He's still going slow. Getting cars by. I have no idea. This one's, yeah, just a very slow green car, unfortunately. What it might be is they are currently the last car in the race right now. They're 2 laps down from Blue Thunder, who's 11th in the GT4s. I wonder if they're just being extra cautious and letting everyone through. They know they're not going to make up time and pick up cars unless others have wrecks. So I think they're just trying to stay out of the way. It's, as we mentioned, Kevin in the car. They've also shared it with Michael Adams and Andrew Hillman throughout today. We haven't covered them a whole lot because they didn't come back out on the track for quite some time.
Yeah, that could be it potentially. I think you may be right about that, Joe. And right now we watch Leif Peterson as he tries to work his way around. He's currently 15th place in that GT3 Pro-Am category rather, trying to see what he is able to do. He's got a little bit of a battle on his hands here. Well, not really a battle. That's some lap traffic up ahead of him. They are actually on the same lap here at this point, but GT3 versus GT4 certainly going to be enough to be able to pass him on by.
Yeah, the only downside for the 28 car is that all those GT4s are not getting blue flags if he's on the same lap as them. So he's got to be extra cautious. They might not be aware that there's a faster class car coming in from behind. As we watch Rattray once again down into the chase, making this one look easy. It might be a very comedically painted car, but they were dead serious about taking down this win.
Yeah, they certainly were, and well, as we've said, they have showed it here today. They are absolutely on it, absolutely pushing as hard as they can, and now at this point in the race, it is just a matter of trying to keep things together. You don't want to be doing too difficult of a running. What you really want to do is just go. And I don't mean push. You just want to relax a little bit, let the track come to you, but you can't relax too much. As we've said, climbing up and down over the hill, that'll throw you off a little bit. You've got to stay on it, but at this point, just take as much time as you can to breathe and relax.
So through Griffin's Bend, car behind him is James Huth, another of our GT3 cars catching up. That's our 5th place driver in the GT3 Pro-Am, who is going to have to try and find his way past here over the mountain, which I'm sure is not fun, but they've done it plenty of times up to this point, so they got lots of experience to try and make good decision-making in the heat of the moment as the 111, yeah, just sits and waits. He's got 28 seconds up to the Wonder Bread car. He's not going to do much trying to blast past this class leader. And then it's another 18 seconds behind them to Dre GT. Did they just make contact there, or did they stay out of it?
I think they stayed out of it, but it was pretty nip and tuck if it wasn't actually contact. Very, very close running for the two of them. But we'll keep an eye on how these two cars perform, see if there's any little bit of performance problems that come out as a result of it. But starting to close down here a little bit more.
Went and checked on my screen, and they did not make contact, it appears. If they did, it would have been some serious net code. So thankfully, James Huth was able to get away with that one. And in fact, Huth is about to get lapped. Oh, and I heard another blockage report. Gonna go back and check to see if I can find that.
All right, while he is checking that out here, we're going to continue to keep our eyes on this 111 machine for Last 10th Racing as they come down into Murray's Corner here at this point, just trying to continue to go, trying to build as much of a gap as possible. Remember, they have about 30 seconds on either side of them here at this point, so they don't have to worry about too much, but you never know what can happen. We do have a replay here, and Joe, I think you found the incident.
Yep, so this is Scott Durham. I do see Mark Frost also potentially involved in this. Yeah, this is where it happened. Coming up into Skyline, and again, a very scary place to be. They try to get going. Yes, they did. Oh, the Code Red car gets knocked into the wall gently, and Mark Frost is able to get it going, but sure, that was quite frustrating. They're back into pit lane. I don't see a black flag, so that's not for incident limits. And I don't think they got a hard enough hit, so maybe they're just getting their last stop since they were sort of off sequence to everybody else because of their earlier problems in this race. Glad to see that any of the track blockages we've had have not seen multiple cars wind up piling up into one another here. Is, my goodness, that was a little sketchy up over Skyline. That was Jordan Dyer just getting ready to try and lap Huth, and that's Point Break Esports in the GT4 just in front of him.
Yeah, some lapped cars there, and you've really got to feel bad for Code Red on the day, Joe. They have just had a very, very rough run of things. It seems like every time we have a track blockage or an incident, they're somehow caught up in it, and you've really got to feel bad for them.
Sometimes that's just the way the races go. I've been on those endurance teams before where you're many laps down, you're just trying to keep it together and try and gather up whatever positions you have, and you still find yourself getting collected and stuff that isn't necessarily your fault. Sounds like we had a black flag for Rich Minkler's team. Double checking which team that is.
And trying to see exactly who it is as well on my screen. I
lost track of it. Yeah, we'll try and get that. Well, while you're doing that, it is time to announce our last trivia winner. Brett Holmes got this one. It was Eastern Creek, also known as Sydney Motorsports Park these days, that held the race in 1995. So that's the one instance where the 12-hour event did not take place on Bathurst. Congratulations, Brett. Just email ryan@podiumesports.com. and you can claim your prize for that one. That's it. That's all three of our sets. But don't forget that we have 15% off all Six Sigma Sim Racing products on the website, sixsigmasimracing.com. Use that PCA 15 code. You've only got about 15 more minutes to use it, so time is running out. DJ, do you have a chance to figure out who got that black flag?
I have looked up and down my timing screen, and I think Minkler has come out of the car here at this point, so I'm not sure who that was delivered to.
But yeah, okay. I'm going to check through the lap counter here and see which car he was in, because we do have who was in the car for each of the laps. So I just got to find Minkler's name here, because he has been out on the circuit. Oh, it was the Dre GT car. Okay. That was for something that was about 10 minutes ago, it looks like. So I'm not sure which incident that was for, but regardless, that is a drive-through that they're going to have to serve. And yeah, I can see it on the screen. You know what? If I had looked at our screen that actually shows who has a black flag, that probably would have answered my question a lot quicker. anyways, it was, we're getting information it was for the track blockage incident that we just showed on replay. That's why they got that black flag. 55 team, 28-second lead now over Hydro Race JRT. It is pretty comfortable for them. They haven't led this entire race. In fact, they started down in 7th position. But qualifying is not everything in endurance racing. And Jordan Dyer probably knew that coming in and stayed patient and has been handsomely rewarded.
Well, let's not count our eggs here too quickly, Joe. They still have 15 minutes to get around to this circuit. And as we've seen, there are things outside of your own control that can come back to bite you. If you've got a driver in front of you that makes a little bit of an errant mistake coming up and over Skyline, that could ruin your race. Yes, they've got a 30-second gap, but they have got to still be on it the entire way through. This is by no means done and dusted yet for Matrix Bronze.
Can't wreck the car from here. Don't have enough for that. And now I don't wish this upon them, and knocking on wood in case of commentators' curse. They've got enough. They could probably get a drive-through penalty and come back out. But again, not exactly what you want here because it'd still be tight. And, well, they've caught back up to James Huth. We're watching them catch that P5 GT3 car earlier. And for the second time, they've now rocked up to the rear bumper.
Yes, they have. So here, let's see if they're going to be able to get around that number 111 machine with Huth behind the wheel right now. Again, this is to put Huth a lap down. This will be lapping all the way up into P5, which is just such an impressive feat. There you see a little bit later onto the binders going down into the chase. I think Huth recognized the writing on the wall and let him on by.
Yep, he waved him by through the radio, let him know that he's not going to fight him. This 55 car is the only car left that has 0 incidents on the track. Can they make it all the way to the checkered flag with that record? That will be phenomenal from them to be able to manage that. Not only fast, but incredibly clean to boot.
Yeah, very, very good. There to be able to do that as we look our way there. Now he's got a little bit of GT4 traffic he's going to have to deal with. That's Kevin Yokel. We're also going to give a little bit of love here back down to your AM leader in the GT3 class. That's Nick Facciolo for Shake and Bake Master. Doing a great job here, just holding on to everything. They've got about a 39-second advantage over Dre GT behind them. And here's Robert Rattray, the leader of your GT4 field. We have talked at length about him and this Simrat Racing team doing a fantastic job.
In fact, they because of the problems with Code Red, they're now on the same lap as that number 33, and they might wind up beating one of our GT3 cars, Imperial Motorsports, the way things are going. It's Yokel who is leading, Matt Yokel, I should clarify, 2 of them out there, who is currently leading the AM category in Matrix Orange. So he took over for Mark Lacombe and Joachim Baker from earlier in this race, and they're actually currently 3rd in the GT4s overall, so not too shabby for that number 37 machine. Dyer now down the Conrad once again, and we're at about 6 or 7 laps left to go for these drivers. It is really towards the latter stages of this race.
Yeah, it certainly is as we continue to close down here. And now really complacency becomes the big enemy for a lot of these drivers. You cannot let yourself get thrown out. You cannot let yourself get caught out by any of these drivers or any of these corners. You have got to stay up on the wheel. You have got to make sure you know what you're doing. And you have got to make sure you do not let up.
30 seconds. That's the difference between Matrix Bronze and Hydro Race. This is Hydro Race's driver, Travis Brody, on screen. Considering the time they lost going off course right here in this corner through the chase, and then the time they lost having to check up to not run into a wrecking car, they probably could have easily been in the lead. But sometimes it's those little things that wind up costing you the victory. Brody's probably not going to give up on it, but this is going to be quite a long shot for them to have a chance at the victory. They essentially need that 55 to have an issue.
Yeah, they really do need it to just get into trouble, and you never want to wish ill of your competitors, but that really and truly is probably the only way that they're really going to be able to get anything to play here at this point. But that Hydro Race team has had an up and down race. They were the early favorites here. I thought for sure they were going to scamper off into the distance, but as you mentioned, Joe, just falling back down through the order here into second place, trying to hold on to the best of their ability. Keeping an eye on Matrix, though, doesn't look like they're going to have a whole lot of lap traffic in front of them for a while. So it may just be ending the way we see it. Jordan Dyer there you see on your screen. He's going to continue on here, and he's got about 5 seconds up the road until he's going to meet anything resembling some lap traffic.
Yeah, let's remember that Brody shared this with Drawhorn, who started the race for that number 62, as we have hopped on board a little bit farther down in the number 63 here, and work our way around the first corner, the 83 rather, of Dre GT. But yeah, it was pretty well under control for Trey Drawhorn up at the front of the field for the first stint until the very end, where he started to be caught, but that was by Eureka of all cars. And we thought that those were going to be the two that were vying for this, and lo and behold, it was neither of them that wound up being the major player by the end of the race. And it can always change. It can always evolve as a race goes on, especially endurance races. You don't know what the major storylines are going to wind up being. You can take your educated guess, but that's the reason we hold the race, because we just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we certainly do not know what is going to happen, and that is what makes everything so fantastic about racing here. So here we go, coming down the hill a little bit, keeping our eyes on these GT3 machines. Again, this is not a battle for position here at this point, but you've just got to hold on as much as possible. They're going to be able to use a little bit of the slipstream here, coming down the Conrad Straight. Maybe that'll come out to play.
Absolutely. By the way, one last reminder, because time is really running out. Use code PCA15 at sixsigmasimracing.com to get 15% off all Six Sigma products on their website. Go check it out, because the deal is only good for 9 more minutes. After this race is over, the deal is gone. So better hurry up and get your shopping done. Big thank you once again to Six Sigma Sim Racing for sponsoring this second racing event of 2023, endurance racing event here for PCA Sim Racing. So back along the front stretch, Marble Motors just behind Logan Grotto. As you said, it's not for position, unfortunately, but really our two closest cars out on track. And I guess not much to do for them except amuse one another until the end of the race. That said, Marble Motors has only about 5 seconds down to Dre GT, so they're not out of the woods. Scott Durham could try and use a little bit of that traffic to cut in on that gap and attack in the final few laps. They're only going to have, looks to be, about 4 more of them to go.
Yeah, not a whole lot of time here, under 8 minutes to go as we now take a look at Matrix Bronze. They are now coming into a little bit of that lap traffic that we talked about earlier, and this is going to get a little bit tricky for them. We've got Jason Finch, we've got James Huth up ahead, and those are both GT3 cars. And you mentioned earlier, Joe, it's a lot harder to overtake a car in your own class than it is overtaking some of those other GT4s around. So that's going to be a little bit difficult here for him, but I'm pretty sure that Jordan Dyer behind that wheel of the number 1 is going to be just fine.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident in them at this point. But confidence doesn't mean anything. It's all down to them performing on the track as we continue to ride on board. Just watching them swing through the various parks up on the hill, and a little bit of side-by-side in front of them as Sean Murphy gets overtaken by Jason Finch. GT3 overtaking GT4 traffic just past Skyline. And as you'd expect, Jordan Dyer is going to stay a lot more patient. That car behind him is Leif Peterson. That's the last GT3 car running, actually. And Pure Motorsports Magic Man has just about overtaken all of the GT4 cars. Well, actually, this is going to be another one. They're just overtaking there. So now all they need to do is go by Simrat Racing, but unfortunately, they might run out of time. And Simrat's actually going to beat one of our GT3s at this rate.
Yeah, I think they will. As I look at that gap, it's I think it's going to hold steady here at this point. So that's yet another feather in the cap of that Simrat Racing team that we have talked about many a time over the course of today. As we continue to cycle our way around, the leader crossing over the line here at this point with about 6 minutes left to go. Time lapse at about 2 minutes and 3 seconds. So I think that should be about 2, maybe 3 to go.
It is, but for one of the cars, they might not make it to the finish. The Dre GT car that I said was trying to catch up to the Dreadnought or Marble Motors team has unfortunately come to an end at the S's. This is going to be just out of Skyline. Car gets out of shape, and it's a fast part. Oh, with a monster hit into the wall, unfortunately. And he's got a black and orange flag, so they had to take a tow. They couldn't get it back to pit lane, and that means they have to wait for those repairs to be done. If it's any more than 6 more minutes long, they're basically done for the day.
Oh, that's going to be such a heartbreak there for them. They have been running a pretty good race up to this point, just trying to keep everything together. Now we watch right now, continuing to keep our eyes on that Matrix Bronze machine, trying to see. Now they're going to have Jason Finch, and it looks like Boyer up ahead of them right now, and that's going to slow them down coming down the hill. You've just got to exercise patience here. You don't want to make that pass until you cross over the start-finish line.
Finch with Dreadnought currently sitting in 8th, and that's Charlie Boyer, who's definitely had a lot of adventures out there today. In fact, they've been penalized at least once or twice out there in that 93, but he's going to allow all 3 of our GT3 cars to go on by as Dyer gets clear of Jason Finch. And does he have anybody else that he needs to overtake? He's got James Huth in front of him again. Didn't he pass James Huth? Did he get back by him?
I think so, yeah. I'm not sure where James picked up that time, or maybe he had a little bit of a problem, but that's the second time that we've seen James get passed. But, yeah, I thought he had gotten by him earlier.
A strange situation there that I feel like it's Groundhog's Day, and we've seen him pass him like 4 times already. But whatever the case, this will mean that Huth has a good shot at finishing on the lead lap here in this 3-hour event. No easy feat, considering nobody in the GT4s will finish on the lead lap of their class leader, and very few of the GT3 cars will manage it over here. Oh, Poulos just hit the wall just ahead of this group. I was kind of watching the lap traffic up ahead of him. For some reason, the 333 just slammed the left-hand side.
Ooh, very strange there for that to happen for Laughing Clown Masser here at this point. Let's take a look at the replay here, Joe. I wonder if this maybe was a little bit of a hardware issue that they had to deal with, or maybe the car just got loose coming up through Griffin's Bend.
Just got wide, maybe?
Yeah, just got wide, got out into the marbles. I didn't see a whole lot of change there, like they were trying to make a bit of an adjustment, but a very strange situation.
Car's still going. That's good news. He's still in the top 10. And he just got a spot from Dre GT after they're still in pit lane taking their repairs. So that's the good news for them. And in fact, bad news, Rich Minkler just disconnected. Now, it was Scott Durham in the car. Minkler started it off. But that usually is a bad sign to me if one of the team members, especially late in the race, signs off before the checkered flag. That, to me, says the day is done.
Yeah, it certainly does, and that is a tough break for Minkler and the rest of the crew there as everybody now goes around. Just a bit of a heartbreak there for them. But I'll tell you who's not going to be facing heartbreak. That is going to be your leader here, Jordan Dyer, leading the car around. He'll be coming to the white flag this time by.
Yeah, just squeaking under the 2-minute mark, and since they've been running 205s and 206s, this is it. That is probably a beautiful sight here for the 55, that white flag waving, letting them know just one more time around. Yes, there are 5 cars that could still overtake being on the same lap, but all they have to do is cruise home. In fact, it could be 30 seconds slower. Oh, we've had an off. Travis Brody, and that is Dreadnought Racing. And in fact, Eureka takes the second place away because of this accident.
Oh my goodness, never stop watching until it's the very, very end of the race. Here is Brody. Let's watch and see what happened. This is coming down into the chase on the penultimate lap. Goes into the corner, just carries too much speed in, loses himself around there a little bit. I'm not sure who that was in front of him. That was the 775, that's the Eureka that's able to get on by him. But I think that was just a little bit of an incident where he kind of misjudged that overtake, Joe.
Well, Brody thought he had a big enough boat, but unfortunately, it still fell victim to the snapping jaws that this track brings out. And right at the very end, loses that second place. As up at the top, Jordan Dyer in the 55 has one more car in front of him, George Poulos, who's already 2 laps down, actually. So he just needs to stay patient, doesn't even need to lap this orange and purple car. He can just kind of sit behind him. It's down to 25 seconds, 26 seconds to Eureka, and they could almost run out of gas here to the finish and cruise down the hill. They have had some blinking problems, though, as I hope Jordan Dyer's stuff holds out. Jacob Schum given a black flag, and that was not sure who that is. We'll get that team in a bit, as I see a number of black flags. But we'll celebrate the victory for Matrix Bronze. Matthew Siddall and Jordan Dyer have run a near perfect race out here to take victory in the Bathurst 3 hours.
Just absolutely running to perfection here at this point, weaving across the line. A great run here for Matrix Bronze. That is something they can be very, very proud of, Joe.
And with it being the last lap, Hydro Race, who had Jacob Schum on the car, they're the one getting the black flag, are going to get a post-race time penalty because of this. They are 46 seconds ahead of Wonder Bread's number 26 car. They hopefully will be able to come out ahead of them, because I think that's enough time. But second place for Eureka as they cross. Where is Robert Rattray? He's still way up there. And where are our AM leaders? Looks like Shake and Bake is about to take the win here.
I think they are. They're coming down into the chase here. Nick Facciolo for Shake and Bake Master. One more corner to go here for them as they bring that number 1 machine down through the corners. And here they go, taking victory into the GT3 AM class.
I want to give some love to the 37. We missed them coming across the line, but Matrix Orange will win the GT3 AM category. But these are the guys that are going to be winning the GT Pro-Am category. Simrat Racing, Robert Rattray and Ian Simon, the two that shared the car over these 3 hours. That car is smiling ear to ear, and so are the drivers, with a dominant victory today down under.
An absolutely dominant performance, by far the most dominant performance that we've seen out of any car. A great, great run here for Simrat Racing. That, to me, I said it before, that's the drive of the race.
I agree, which is going to take us to our results, which is impressive, not just because of the race that Matrix Bronze ran, but the fact that they were the only team that had 0 incidents over 3 hours. Eureka managed to get back up to second. They started from pole. Anything less than a win was probably a little disappointing for them. Hydro Race are currently scored in third. I'm just going to double check and make sure before I get through my stuff in case we get any late penalties for them from the sim. Once all the cars cross the line, that will be confirmed. Behind them, Wonder Bread was 4th, and Last 10th Racing was P5. Last one on the lead last. Shake and Bake was P6, and Marble Motors finished P7. Dreadnought Racing finished 2 laps down in 8th, as Three Amigos was 9th behind them, and the top 10 is rounded out by Laughing Clown, finishing in 10th place. Anchors Away, 3 laps down in 11th, was followed by 208 GT3 Racing in 12th. Dre GT was a DNF today, did not get to see the checkered flag, but they were scored as 13th, actually ahead of Code Red, who did see the checkered flag. Despite some hefty time in the pit lane for that number 33. Imperial Motorsports Magic Man finished 15th in class, but behind the leader in the GT4s with Strennan, the only DNF today other than Dre GT that I can tell. And it does look like Hydro Force has been confirmed in 3rd place here today. DJ?
Well, in that GT4 category, as we talked about, it was Simrat Racing, absolutely dominant performance over Breaking Bad. Then in the AM category, it was Matrix Orange and Gone Broke Racing. Following them in 5th place overall in the GT4 class, it was Point Break Esports. That'll be 20th overall. Then 21st, it was 208 GT4 Green Racing Team. And then Kynerin Racing in 7th place in the GT4 class. Three Stooges Racing was 8th, followed by Matrix Silver. Then it was Backmarker Motorsports, Blue Thunder, Matrix Green, and as we said, Wursternen coming in last.
What a race it was today, and that's going to close us out. But again, we've got more of these endurance races coming later on. We'll see you at the Nürburgring for the next endurance round on April 16th, live here on Podium Esports. And a big thank you, by the way, goes to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, along with a huge thanks to our team tonight, DJ, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. Also, none of this is possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.